Okay, I think I should be back, ideally. Yes, okay. Let me just double check. My internet just decided to quit and then fix itself, so... Let me just double check. Okay. My internet just decided to quit. I apologize about that, though it is not my fault. But, while I was gone, I did grab some N64... well, S-video cables, which should do the trick for testing, as well as a OSSC add-on board, because I forgot I need that for composite. So we are just going to go ahead and get all of this plugged into each other. You need to be plugged in, don't you? Well, I need to plug this in first. It goes... You are the DCN, yes, okay. So you go here, and then you go here. There we go, okay. So we should have OSSC now. And OSSC needs to go to... That should be correct, yes, okay. So we should be going on video now. Should have video happening on screen. Just like that. Almost like magic. And hopefully these cables work, because if they don't, that's going to be annoying. We got that. You can just plug in the S-video. Well, it's on composite. For the purposes of testing, I don't really care about the video quality too much. So, as long as it works, we're going to have RGB anyway. So, doesn't really matter. And we need to... Nope, we don't need to switch anything. We should be good on that. So, with any... Oh, and we need to plug in the Nintendo 64. Oh, we already did. Okay. Might as well plug in a controller. Just turn this into playing N64 in my dungeon stream. Oh yeah, and it came with this N64 too. Has a GameCube style replacement analog stick. It's a spring return stick as well too. So I'm not sure who makes it, but I figured if we get done with this RGB mod as quickly as I think we probably will, then I might go ahead and I might take this apart and see who makes it. But we'll turn that on, and we should have something, ideally. It's on composite. It's RGB in. It sees the add-on board. Maybe using a counterfeit game is not the best choice for a test cartridge. But yet again, the N64 is so annoying to deal with anyway when it comes to cartridges that you'll never know what's actually failing. Because it doesn't actually push a recognizable signal. Yeah, that's not doing anything. We can try the other Nintendo 64, see if it does something. We might be repairing a Nintendo 64 today, for all we know. Okay. I'm not getting anything from this either. I might try another game. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Or go somewhere. I don't know. Just you do what you want to do. Okay? I am not the boss. legit copy of Mario Kart 64, then see if that decides to work. I'm not getting anything. I get a power light. I suppose I've never used the composite on these cables. We might try the S video and see what happens. I think it's this button that changes. Try switching it to S video. We are receiving nothing, so that's great. Try cleaning the cartridge and cartridge slot. Maybe that'll work. There. We've got our N64 cleaning accessories. We need our alcohol. Tell me about it. How this stream's going. Am I right? Oh. Put alcohol on there. Get it all over the place. And then we clean our cartridge. I'm pretty sure I've used this Mario Kart 64 cartridge plenty of times, so let's get some alcohol on you. Wait, that's for Super Nintendo. I forgot. This doesn't have the weird shapes. Clean you. This stream powered by Performance cartridge cleaning accessories. Get yours with a time machine going back to 1999. Can you believe it? Only $1. It's in that number. The amount of value you get for your dollar in 1999. Anyway, there we go. Just took a little coercion, but we got there in the end. As you can see, it works, and it honestly looks just about as good as RGB anyway with S video, but the RGB mod is cheap and easy, so we're RGB modding it. There we go. Yep, looks to all be working perfectly, so we can go ahead and try the Japanese Nintendo 64, which was the intended console to be modding today. See if it works. Place your bets now in the chat. Nothing. There we go. Now it's working. And it's working just as well. So, we can hit the start button. We can do a one-player game on 50cc, because I am playing with about a second of input lag. So, we're going to play as Yoshi, because Yoshi's the best. And we're just going to make sure this console works. I don't know if it's... I'm just going to check to make sure it's picking up audio. Should be... Yep, I'm getting audio from the capture device, so we're good. I don't have a setup to feedback audio here from the capture, so... as long as we're getting audio, we should be fine. I'm just looking for any issues that might cause issues for this console. And I forgot, you just hold down the button. That's an issue. Something's not working correctly. Is it my capture card? Oh, that was weird. Is it working now? No. Okay, that's working. Is it something with my, No. Is it the console? It's the console. The console just quit doing anything. Try that again. Okay, now we got something going on here. Do I get more input lag on the screen for some reason? No, not really. We're gonna try that again. See, this is why we test consoles. Because you never know when they're just gonna... Okay, we're gonna go to Yoshi, because Yoshi's the best. You never know when it's just not gonna work. So, keep in mind, this is a legitimate copy of Mario Kart, so... it shouldn't have problems. Okay, there we go. Oh, this game is gonna be very difficult to play with the input lag. Very, very difficult. Oh boy. We're only on 50cc though. We should still be able to do okay. Mario is following closely behind though. And I guess Peach is following. Yeah. Look at that. This analog stick doesn't feel bad. Might need to do a stick test, though I don't have it downloaded on my flash card. This is the drift button. Yep. Yeah, I'm still... I am sort of a novice at Mario Kart 64, to be completely honest with you, but this screen doesn't work. You do technically get Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this capture card, this is my cheap one that I use for my overhead camera. So it lag-wise, I think it's an HDMI 2.0 or it's a USB 2.0 capture card as well, which definitely does not help matters. But come on, you can do it. Switch back. Which one is this? Input 1 or input 5? It's input 1. Okay, good. Still getting used to this setup, but welcome to the stream, Master 801. It is pretty much just a cheap Amazon one that was like $8 or something like that. Definitely not good for input lag, but definitely good on the wallet. So can't complain. And the crazy thing with it, China makes newer ones that USB 2 and 3 that are actually... Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, even this 2.0 one, I mean, for $8, that capture quality is fantastic. And the crazy thing, too, is with the OSSC, capture cards have a super difficult time trying to work with the sync resolution or the sync of when you have it in 5x mode. This capture card, 5x mode is not a problem for it. So it's kind of crazy that you can spend ridiculous amounts on a capture card and they can't handle weird signals as well as these cheap Chinese ones. But yeah, I have a couple of them, but I'm kind of wanting to find a like 3.0 option that does even better yet in terms of like the compression and encoding and that kind of thing. What res specifically? I think this one does 1080 30 and 720 60. So not too bad. But 1080 60 would also be a nice thing to have as well. Not that it really matters too much for Twitch and YouTube and all that, because by the time it actually, you know, goes through the compression process with YouTube and Twitch, it, you know, doesn't really make a huge difference anyway. But definitely having the 60 frames per second makes a difference on both YouTube and Twitch. So definitely can't complain. It's definitely not a MS2 one. I might have to look that up then, because I'm definitely open to options for, because I mean, just the compatibility that I've had with the two that I've had, which are both fairly similar, different form factors, but very similar performance. I think they even show up like the same in OBS, so I'm assuming they probably even use the same driver. But 2130 capture card. Yeah, it looks similar visually, but that being said, it probably has improved hardware. Oh, it'll do 4K 30. At least it says it'll do 4K 30. The input will work with 4K 30 and output resolution 1080 30. And it supports 12-bit color. That's at least what it's saying. I'd probably have to go to reviews on Amazon to see if it's actually doing that. But for all intents and purposes, I mean, really, I'm just looking for a good option. Actually reliable at 4K. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, but really, I have no need for 4K capture cards at this point. Maybe if I go out and buy, well, I plan on buying RetroTink 4K eventually. And at that point, then I'll probably want a 4K capture card. But for now, just with an OSSC, it only does 1080p anyway, so not a big difference. Hey, MinBV, I think I might be pronouncing that correctly. Welcome to the stream. How's it going? Just about to start digging into a Nintendo 64 here, hopefully. Since we've now proven it works, so. There we go. But the chip can do 4K, but only something stupid low like 20. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So it'd probably only be decent for capturing stills or something like that, which could be useful in certain situations. Like I'm planning on doing a test video where I test, I don't have them down here, but I compare Bitfunx's GameCube component cables versus, what's the other brand? Kaiko. They should be, I'm assuming, like my guess is going to be they're practically the same, but I'm going to go into it kind of open and do an open comparison because they look very similar and they probably use the same hardware. But you never know until you try them out and, you know, test them, that kind of thing. But anyway, and yeah, this is, I wonder if my illegitimate copy of Mario Kart's going to work here. We'll find out here quick. Just so I can know if I can keep this one down here as a test cartridge or not. Because right now it's not really doing a good job as a test cartridge. Oh, yeah, it is working. So yeah, I'm guessing I probably just needed to clean out the port. You know, actually the, like, looking at the Bitfunx one so far, like, the cable shielding quality doesn't look particularly great, particularly on the ends. But quality-wise, like, the issue with the like, original GameCube component cables, not only, you know, with their fact that they're ridiculously expensive, but the other issue with them is they tend to overblow color detail a little bit, which these new ones I've found tend to not do. So, I think that, Dusty Do mod, yeah, hey Similarian, welcome to the stream. Yep, we're doing a mod, N64 RGB. What could possibly go wrong, other than everything? So, but yeah, so far, I mean, I have to say, for the $35 you buy them for on AliExpress, any quality difference between more expensive cables, I can probably live with. So yeah, I mean, when you compare the $35 price point to the, well, what are the official component cables going for nowadays? Like 200? I think the if anybody here is wanting official GameCube component cables for whatever reason, and 300, yeah. So for a tenth of the price, they can't be that bad. And honestly, I haven't gotten a really good look at them yet. Like I haven't plugged them into my my OLED TV or anything like that. But just looking at the capture, yeah, there you go. But yeah, if you want a cheaper option, they do occasionally come up on eBay. But the D-terminal version of the GameCube component cables at least used to typically go for only like $100, which is expensive, but significantly lower, and you can just adapt D-terminal straight to component. It's the same signal, just different connector. S-video is good enough? Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, particularly the N64's S-video output, that is perfectly fine. Like, just looking at it through the capture here, and this is through very inexpensive capture card, S-video, I think it's perfectly fine, but the only real reason I feel the need to do this is because A, it's extremely cheap if you have an NS1 model N64, and two, the other reason is because the mod is extremely cheap as well. So, cable from Working Cables, yeah. Well, you don't actually need to Frankenstein the cable either. You can just get a D-terminal to component adapter. So, it is the exact same thing. In fact, the reason why I was looking at the D-terminal options originally is my old scaler was a Micom Soft XRGB3, and which is basically the one they released before the FrameMeister, and that one had that one didn't actually have any component inputs. All of its inputs were D-terminal, so made things a little bit... well, it made it fine. You just adapt D-terminal to component, but it's still easier this way. But the nice thing with GameCube is, of course, progressive scan makes quite a bit of difference playing on modern displays. Not as much on CRTs, but on, like, if you're using a scaler and that kind of thing, progressive scan makes a massive amount of difference for GameCube. So that's kind of the nice thing with that. But anyway, I suppose we could probably start tearing right into this this console right here. But yeah, I've been kind of on a kick of trying to get all of my stuff to the point where A, I can play any game that I want on it, and B, I can get the best signal quality possible out of it. So, for a reasonable amount of money. I think with the NES, I'm probably going to have to resort to the Tim Worthington mod, but that being said, that's the actually most decent price option that I know of for NES RGB, aside from buying a clone console, which, you know, FPGA ones are tempting nowadays, for sure, but I'm thinking it might just be cool to have an RGB-capable original NES. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and crack into this. This is the NSJ, yes. So, find my game bit, and so pretty much, I'm going to be trying to do this from memory. I've never actually done one of these mods before. I've only watched videos on it. So, and I am modifying a N64 with a questionable history, but I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue. Who knows? I could open this up and it's already RGB modded. I actually haven't tested it, but it came from Goodwill, and it is a Japanese console, and it came with a bunch of counterfeit games, or bootlegs, or whatever you want to call them, and a N64 controller with a modified GameCube-style joystick, so... But yeah, from that little playing of Mario Kart, it seems fine so far, that joystick. I would like to find my... my magnet on a stick. Oh, there it is. Try to open Twitch feed here so I can see what's going on Twitch. Yeah. But yeah, I'm then thinking I'll take that controller apart, see exactly if I can figure out what joystick that, or modified joystick it's using. JPN64 from Goodwill, you said? Yes, and JPN64, NUJ. NUJ1 no less, so it should be capable of this RGB mod. But I do have a contingency American model, so hopefully between the two of these, they will be compatible and have the RGB chip on. But just looking inside, looks like I dropped a screw of some kind. Yes, I did. Okay. Where's my magnet on stick? There it is. I don't know how I missed that one. Probably not so. Probably some no-name analyst. Probably, yeah. I mean, from the era this, because like the thing is, the only time I can pinpoint for the era which this was probably bought was the copy of Mario Kart, Smash, and Star Fox were all counterfeit. But the copy of Yoshi's Story was not counterfeit. So either they had a copy of Yoshi's Story, or that was before it got a little bit more expensive. So that's what I'm kind of using to basically determine that it was probably before they were actually selling the good analog stick replacements, or like, I guess reworked ones. But honestly, like, the stick feel is decent. It has the GameCube spring tension. So that's kind of the one thing that, like, if I'm going to have a GameCube style stick, I want it to have the spring tension of a GameCube controller rather than kind of the modern feel with no spring tension. But, oh, and it's missing a screw. And I think that screw is not the correct screw. There. So that's a good start. Yeah, it's those should be small screws. So, we may be digging into this N64, and it could be, they could have had it RGB modded, and they could have had it all kinds of messed up by somebody. So, what can you do? Hopefully, if it is RGB modded, then it's I mean, it's kind of a pipe dream if they're, you know, just buying a bunch of counterfeit games. That they're going to go out and pay to have it RGB modded by somebody. Maybe they RGB modded it themselves. Maybe I'll be able to fix somebody's RGB mod. Who knows? That's always the fun of opening up these old consoles. And it's an NSCPU4, which, if I recall correctly, that means it's either not compatible or will have to run sync. So it could be a transplanted board as well. Are these... Those are the small screws. I think they put those in the wrong spot. There's a long screw there. I can't remember if those ones have to be. Maybe the Japanese ones are different too. Who knows? But these are the cartridge slot ones. I'll keep them separate. Good old, oh god, Japanese. Yeah, we might find out some of the history of this console here. Maybe it'll just be extremely basic and somebody took it apart at some point. Who knows? But honestly, that'd probably be the best case scenario at this point, because I kind of don't want to... Well, I mean, in a way, I don't want to fix somebody else's work, but also it doesn't really bother me too much because it gives me something to do. But that feels like a 0. Difficulty is I don't have a proper JIS headset, so I just have to use what I have here. This is correct, right? Maybe this is a 1. That didn't feel very good in there, but it's... I think it looks partially stripped. I didn't put nearly enough pressure on it to strip one of these screws. These screws are, like, pretty fantastic. For reference, Katsu Kitty soldering was god-awful and barely worked. Yeah, I believe they did the 3DS, or either the DS or the 3DS capture cards, didn't they? And yeah, I've heard that, like, that's one of the only ways you could get them, and they'd have a tendency to fail because of the soldering work. That's all I remember on those, but kind of kept me from ever wanting to get one, and particularly because you can actually do a Wi-Fi stream from a 3DS with a soft modded 3DS that when I did it in like 2019, seemed to work pretty well. So I'm assuming they hopefully have that working even better now. But I have, these might be zeroed. Nope, these are ones. They might even work better now. Who knows? But yeah, I just kind of played around with it a little. DS, 3DS, new 3DS XL, Wii U tablet, PS Vita. Oh, gotcha. Wi-Fi capture won't work in. Yeah, that's that was kind of the key issue, was that DS mode wouldn't work, which I could sort of live with, because I mean you can competently emulate DS on Wii U, but it's one of those things where I tend to like to use the real hardware, I guess, more or less, if I can. But also, you know, there would be merits to using the Wii U screen for DS games. Alright, I think we're somewhat in. The screw's stuck. There we go. Alright. Got a little AV port holder there. It's NS4, and I can't remember the chip that I specifically have to verify is on the board. Is it under the heatsink? It looks like, yeah, I am correct in the fact that R16 and the area around there is not populated. So I'd have to run sync if this has the RGB chip, but I'd want to verify that it has the RGB chip. If it is an NS4 or NSCPU4. They actually sell the capture card standalone now? Oh, really? That's something to look into. Oh, yeah, look at that. Like product. New 3DS XL capture kit, which is what I'd look for. $13,000 yen. That's not terrible. Not an impulse purchase or anything like that, but definitely considerable, considering you could know the job that was done on the soldering anyway. So, but yeah, I just know that like soft modded 3DSs were going for crazy prices after Katsu Kitty kind of dropped out of doing mods for whatever reason. But yeah, that's definitely a valid option. I have to look into that. Let's see. Has the PS Vita capture card? Oh yeah, that's awesome too. I mean, for PS Vita, they only ship within Japan. So then, yeah, you'd need to use a middleman service to get them shipped to you, which is fine. I think I have one of those set up. Not that I've ever really used it before, but just in case there's something that only ships to Japan that I like really need. But that would make it even more of a purchase, I guess, and you'd probably want to do both that and the Vita at the same time if you're going to get the Vita one. I mean, I'd have to contemplate it a little bit just because you do have the PS TV, but there are some games that I mean would definitely play better on the Vita for sure, on actual hardware. I haven't gotten into the Vita as much as I'd like to. Definitely something that at some point here I really want to kind of get into. Proxy services are expensive. Yes. Yep. $50 for even slow boating. Well, I do know somebody from Japan too, so he might be able to middleman it, but I'd have to see. A couple people, just kind of acquaintances, but you know, it'd be something where it might be the best option, honestly. Are you in a basement? Yes, I am in my dungeon. This is my new dungeon lab that I just set up. That has all of my equipment in it, so now I can actually do this kind of thing. It's a little scary down here, but that's okay. I wish they built basements here. Yeah. Well, I mean, in Iowa we have to worry about spiders. I don't know. I would be afraid of the wildlife in your neck of the woods, I guess. Whereas Iowa, it's like, yeah, the only thing we have to worry about is, like, fortunately, I'm in the part of the Iowa where we're too north for brown recluses, we're too south for black widows, so it's like the perfect area for non-venomous spiders. Let's see if ESP out plug-in works. It's still unstable. Yeah, definitely. And too expensive to dig through the rock. Yeah, that makes sense. Here, I mean, excavation isn't nearly as expensive. Most houses have basements, and one of the primary reasons is because they also function as a storm shelter. So buying a house without a basement is kind of a difficult proposition in Iowa if you ever get a tornado. China PSP. Oh yeah, I saw somebody do that mod for the PSP. From what it looked like, you have to remove the UMD. Yeah, it removes the UMD. And it kind of looks a little fiddly, like it was kind of not super well thought out. But honestly, I have a PSP 3000, and I have my XRGB3, which, for whatever reason, I don't know why, and maybe Mike Chi might have fixed this in the RetroTink 5 or the 4K, but at least for the longest time, you couldn't get a scaler that properly scales PSP to, because the output you get from the component of PSP is just ridiculously tiny. But the XRGB3 had a setting in it that was the PSP setting that would scale it perfectly. And to my knowledge, nothing has really ever worked with that. Perfect spider longitude? Yeah, pretty much. Yep. So, we don't have to worry about poisonous spiders, no poisonous snakes. The only thing we have to worry about is, the worst thing we have to worry about pretty much is wolf spiders. And yeah, if you get bitten by one of them, it's not pleasant, but you pretty much, it's cult-like symptoms. So what can you do? But yeah, nothing like deadly. So that's nice. But anyway, I'm gonna have to figure out exactly where this chip I'm looking for is. N64 RGB, because I think it might be under this heatsink. The chip I am looking for is right under the cartridge port, pretty much under two capacitors. And yeah, that's under the heat shield, which I think I have to remove a decent amount of these screws to actually get that off. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. Mice, yeah. That's one issue. Mice haven't been too bad this year, fortunately. I live right next to a cornfield, so that's the issue that you have to worry about with Iowa. is mice. But that being said, you don't leave food out, and usually they don't get too bad. And you leave traps out. I always leave traps out, but other than that, you know. I bet the chip is in the N64. Yeah, hopefully. If not, we'll open that one and find out and verify. I want to verify, because if I don't, then who knows, you know, if this mod is actually going to work, and that might be a complete waste of time. So we're just going to take every screw out and see what happens. This will be an exploratory modification, I guess. I'm going to say I might not have the right bit in, because this one, really want to grab there. That's Phillips too. Let's see. See, I don't live near a field nor leave food out. Yet they've been here for years. Oh yeah, that's corn the other way. Oh yeah. Well, corn is an interesting subject when it comes to the scientific field. It's a very interesting crop. But yeah, they like the issue is when they like start to nest, they have a tendency to like to stay at the same places. So like I had mice pretty bad one year, and it was a whole process trying to get rid of them. Yeah, it was lots of traps, and I probably had at any given time like 6 of them running around in the walls, and it's like full colonies. It's ridiculous. They were trying to breed corn to be shorter with the same number of years. Oh, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, these... Like, the thing is, it feels like a size 2, but maybe it's a size 1. Could be a size 1. Is that going to fit better in there? That fits actually really good in there. These are probably size 1s. I've been just kind of switching between... I have not been keeping track of these screws, by the way, but I don't think the person who first took it apart was either, so... But we did confirm no N64 RGB mod on this yet, so we're going to be the one doing that. I think just all the short screws go in this heatsink here. But yeah, I just definitely... I'd rather unzip all these screws quick and just... I keep on camming out on these screws. Fortunately, this chat box is tiny. If you ever need a reference about some of these old consoles, Mod Retro is the place to go. IMO, they offer more oriented towards portabilizing. We could do that. The founders. Oh yeah, definitely. I think I've used them before as a resource. Oh yeah, the the magnetic screws are they make all the difference. Yeah, when I'm working in the field, I actually use one of these extensions as one, just because it's so difficult not to have one now that I'm used to using one. And of course, you can't bring one of these big metal bowls with you everywhere you go. But like just having something magnetic holding the screws really does make all the difference. Do I want to try a different screwdriver? I don't know. Maybe the issue is I'm using the most ridiculously cheap garbage bit set known to man. So that could be an issue too. This Stanley screwdriver isn't doing any better here. How about you? Are you the right size? You are the right size. Okay. We're gonna go manual for these ones. But yeah, magnetic screw holders are an absolute must. That, and if anything, while we're down here, we can maybe replace like thermal. I can't remember if they use thermal paste or a thermal pad on the Nintendo 64, but probably thermal pad. Nintendo tends to like thermal pads. Which, hey, I mean, the one on the GameCube I did yesterday, or the ones on the GameCube I did yesterday, were perfectly fine after. What has it been, 20 years? So, I mean, I definitely can't complain about them using thermal pads. Yeah, this thing's held together with like 1,000 screws. Pad, gotcha. Yeah, so there will probably be no replacing that, but at least we can go ahead and see what lurks underneath in terms of... And we get to dust it out and clean it and see if there's any... I honestly might not return this RF shield because, well, for one, I'm not going to use RF. And they typically, from what I understand, work fine without them. But I do plan on doing a full recap on it as well, whatever one I end up modding. Just so that's done. So that's off now. And that's off-ish now. Okay, so do we have what we're looking for? VDC NUSA. Let's verify here. VDC NUSA BU90TF. It's a different number, but I think if it says VDS NUS or VDC NUS or VDC NUS or VDC NUSA. VDC NUSA, yes. So should be fine and proceed with the basic RGB mod. Good. So there we go. Oh yeah, and they have individual little heat sinks. It's kind of an interesting design that they've used for the heatsink designs. Like just sticking them on with pads. It's kind of a neat little concept. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get right into this, I guess, now. Oh, well, that all fell apart. Yeah, I might hold on to this. I like keeping things complete, typically, so I almost always reinstall these. But since I do plan on... Well, are there... Yeah, like all the capacitors are under them, so I'm going to keep them off for now. But yeah, so I suppose we can get right into this with a mod board. It includes like a mod board with the video chip, which doesn't look like a counterfeit. Doesn't seem to look like a counterfeit. The Texas Instrument one that's used for the video amplifier. But I assume the giant heatsink pad put pressure. Yeah. That's probably what happens there. So it might be best to return that, honestly. I mean, not that the N64s ever generate like a ton of heat, but make sure this fits properly. I don't know. It's a generic, since the non-generics were out of stock. Yeah, it fits. There you go. But yeah, so the only thing on this one is we're going to have to run sync from R16. But other than that, it should be fully compatible. So there you go. So yeah, the question is, do we want to use their cables or do we want to use mine? I don't think it'd honestly hurt anything to use their cables for this mod. Do they supply 4 cables? That is the other question. Well, actually, this is... They could... okay, so the reason why I'm going to use my own cables is... well, no, they do support... yeah, they have all 4. Okay, so yeah, I don't think I need to use my own cables. I think we're fine with that. But, yeah, they supply the cables, and they're all the right colors, too. So that's nice. So yeah, we can go ahead and get right into actually installing this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and start up my soldering iron. Get that flipped on. Please start. Take your time. There we go. Okay. It was having this weird issue when I initially heated it up. Maybe it was just because it was a new tip, but it kept on flashing error as it heated up, but it heated up perfectly. So seems to be working fine. Grab my solder. I had a little string of it from yesterday, so we'll finish this up. Just get some tin on there. I've been still trying to get used to the whole camera angle thing. And by the way, also please excuse the sound of the heater or the furnace. It's currently in the great state of Iowa. It is... Any bets on the temperature? It is -12. So, yeah, it's big shout out to my furnace for not dying on me. I do appreciate that. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get right into this with putting this board on, and I'm gonna put flux on the board first. I'm gonna put flux on the board, which I totally have not lost my flux. There we go. All right. Not a bad flux. There we go. And hopefully that will transfer in heat good. Maybe I should have my microscope on for this so you can like actually see what's going on. That would be kind of a neat idea. I think I left it on yesterday, so hopefully it decides to turn on. There we go. PC camera, please. Perfect. Yeah, we're professionals here. We have a microscope and everything. Ideally. Properties. Deactivate. Activate. There we go. Yeah, I do apologize about the lines as well. With the whole refresh of my lights and all that. It's not exactly optimal, but we'll do the job. Now let's see if your soldering is up to snuff. Hopefully. I haven't soldered, well, other than yesterday, doing the GameCube, well, I dropped that string of solder, I guess. But other than doing the Pico Boot mod that I did yesterday, I actually haven't soldered in quite a while. So getting back into it, for sure. But, I mean, generally speaking, my care and attention to detail, I think, makes up for the not having soldered for a minute. Try not to catch on here. I'll probably clean these up in a minute. Just tons of flux and drag soldering, but seen some streamers. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, honestly, for a mod that's this simple, comes from using decent equipment. Like, you know, using decent solder, because, I mean, those joints look pretty decent. Maybe a little bit cold, but a little bit of flux should fix that right up. But, yeah, just using the bottom of the barrel solder and and a non-temperature controlled iron will pretty much just guarantee you poor results. So, right, the other side here. I'd say those look fairly well. I'm so terrible at solder. It's pretty much just something that takes a little bit of practice. I mean, at least in my perspective, just about anybody with a little bit of coordination can get decent at it. It's just a matter of practicing on little stuff like this. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like, the only thing that you really, like, if you're going to invest in anything, in my opinion, it's good flux and good solder. Because, I mean, like, soldering iron, part of the equation, you can go on AliExpress and you can get yourself a, like, any, like, soldering station that takes T12 tips, like these. This is the wrong camera for this. But any soldering iron that takes those kinds of tips and is temperature controlled, and you will be blown away. It really does make all the difference. And that's, like, all you need is, like, just high quality yet inexpensive equipment. That's just shop for the right things rather than shopping for the wrong things and spend the same amount of money is a lot of what it comes down to, I think, in my opinion. But when it comes to soldering stuff, because, I mean, like, other than the spool of solder, like, honestly, this spool of Kester high quality, once again, wrong camera for this, but high quality Kester solder, JBC 245. Oh yeah, I mean, you can get, like, very similar options with the JBC tips. But I think the most of the irons that take them are a little bit more expensive. Like, they do clone ones. I know, what's the brand name? I was looking at a pair of hot tweezers from them. But they do JVC clones that are pretty fantastic. At least from the comparisons that I've watched on YouTube. Because I wouldn't mind having multiple stations. Well, I actually have another station on order with hot tweezers that's cheap, that uses more of a T12. Handskit, yes. Well, Handskit's the one I actually have on order and on the way that uses T12 tips. But they might also make a JVC style tip too. $20 Hobby Lobbers. Yeah, that is the, like, temperature controlled will change things. Because, I mean, like, let me just, like, what I learned on was, we will go ahead and take a quick intermission, I guess, from the N64 mod. What I learned on was this guy right here. A Weller. What is your model name? It's something 40. Or no, I guess it's not something 40. It's a 40 watt, but it's a WLC 100. But yeah, this guy was what I learned on. It was a great purchase option in 2014-ish when I first bought it. Now, this is a horrible option. I would never recommend it. Just because, and keep in mind, I learned on this. The reason why I'd never recommend it is because if you can get your iron to like the solid exact temperature you want it, that makes all the difference. Like, it really does. I mean, it makes soldering look 10 times easier and be 10 times easier. But there's just on-off. Yeah, that's something where it's like, if you're getting the wrong temperature out of it, it's going to affect your work. Because, I mean, you could put that soldering iron in like the highest skilled solder. Like, I'm not like the best in the world at soldering, but you can put it in like the best in the world's hands and they will fail with a soldering iron like that, just because it's not temperature controlled at all. So you have to have some kind of temperature control on it. But like, the beauty of it is you can get these hand skit ones from AliExpress for like $30 that perform just as well as like the Hakko 958, and they use the same tips. They keep temperature just as well. They push the same amount of wattage, but they're like $30. It's really incredible. With a bunch of those the tip will oxidize. Yeah. Tip oxidization is also a big issue too. And investing in brass tip cleaner too is a very good option too. I know that from going from temperature settings from a scale of 1 to 5. Yeah, it was like, for my Kester solder, you wanted it on 3-ish. If you were doing a like ground plane or something like that, you'd have to kick it right up. If it was like anything bigger than a do I have it to hand here? I know I have it somewhere. I just don't know where I put it, because I never really have to use it anymore, because honestly, for the soldering that I do, this will, like, you don't need a soldering gun for anything. I thought I had it somewhere down here. It's not in hand tools, is it? I've done a really poor job at organizing this already. I'm gonna just admit that right out of the top. But man, like, you know, anything that was like you had to solder anything substantial, and you're breaking out the, you know, 100-watt soldering gun. But yeah, I did the RGH3 mod on my Falcon 360 with a crap iron, no cleaner, no flux. It worked, but definitely made it hard. Oh yeah. Yep, and that one, you do have, I believe, some pretty precision points there too as well. So definitely something I plan on doing, but I plan on doing RGH3 with getting it programmed with a Raspberry Pi Pico. So that's something that is kind of in the works for this stream as well. Hopefully in the near future here, I have a X-clamp removal tool on order. So, but yeah, I don't have any modded Xbox 360s right now. So I'd definitely like to obtain one through making my own anyway. But yeah, so back to N64 here. We're gonna go ahead and get that cleaned off with some rubbing alcohol. Let's put a little bit on my toothbrush, I think, and that should be fine. Once again, honestly, I've just enjoyed being kind of back into the swing of things, working on electronics projects like this. I mean, I really enjoyed it. That one looks a little weird to me. Maybe it's just my horrible microscope. The one next to FB1 there looks a little strange. I'm gonna redo it. Try to help that alcohol dry there. But yeah, the biggest thing is good flux, enough flux. You can never use too much flux, and a high quality solder is going to. Yeah, that just looks weird in general. I don't know what that is, but it's a good joint. It's shiny. It looks good. That's all I really care about. So as long as it's a good contact, it's a good joint, it's fine with me. So so yeah, next we need to run sync from, I believe, what was it, R16? Yes. So we are going to, what order do we want to do this in? So R16 is the highest up. We will probably do R16 first. So we are going to go ahead and grab the oh yeah. The CPU PPL point was awful. Oh yeah, so cramped, and with the X clamp on, it's damn near impossible. Yeah, funny enough, one of the pads ended up going missing, but not through the soldering chest. Oh yeah. yeah. I've heard it can be a little bit of an interesting mod. I have a R2D2 Corona V1 board that I'm going to be doing it on. So I haven't even watched through like a full guide on doing it yet. Because I always like to watch like one or two guides just so I know kind of what to expect, have some tips from other people just to kind of make the whole process easier, make my whole life easier. But yeah, that is the one thing that I think is going to be the biggest challenge that I have kind of in the works is I'm going to be hopefully next weekend. Mark it in your calendars. I am hopefully next weekend going to be doing a full recap on my Turbo Duo. So that is in the works. That is going to be happening. I have a pair of hot tweezers coming in once again just for that. I'm going to try it out. If not, I have a hot air rework station that I can do it with. But I'm hoping the hot tweezers will make it massively easier, just because you can just pull the capacitors right off the board rather than having to, do something ridiculous like. Like, I don't like the idea of trying to cut them off. It seems too bodgy for me. You get all that electrolyte on the board, and it's like, I don't want to do that. So, there you go. But, I actually use some old Radio Shack lead-free and a MOA flux works good enough. Oh, yeah, definitely. I actually just invested in some paste flux for, like, wires and stuff, because I've had a tendency to always use this Kester 951. And you can just buy it. Like it if you want to actually buy it, it comes in like gallon-sized industrial bottles. But you can find eBay stores that'll just bottle it for you and charge you kind of a massive markup. But honestly, I've had this bottle for a pretty decent amount of time, and I've hardly, like it was full to the top before. Hardly feel like I've made a dent in it. But and then I also have some 815. Which I think just has a little bit more rosin in it. But yeah, this honestly gets my joints looking perfect with some Kester rosin core. Full spool that I bought in 2014, and I've probably used a third of it. So I've spent like $10 on solder through all of the work that I've done. But yeah. All right, so anyway, we'll go ahead and but yeah, I just invested in this SRA rosin flux to do mostly wires and SMD work because, oh yeah, definitely. I definitely see the merits of paste flux and tacky flux for sure, particularly with anything regarding SMD work. because most of what I've done in the past is through hole. But that being said, more of the projects that I want to do are getting to be SMD, and just having something that kind of helps tack the component down, particularly if you're working it on or off with hot air. That can be nice to have for sure. But for doing wires and anything that moves, anything that isn't perfectly flat, paste and tacky flux is definitely a very valuable thing to have. I'm just pre-tinning this wire here quick. And we're going to go ahead and stick it in R16. So, R16 right here. Okay, and we might go ahead and just tack her in with a little bit of liquid flux. Tack her in. Finish her up with some good flow of solder here. And I think that looks good. Yeah, she's good and stuck in there. Need to open up my Trinitron and look at the component end cables. The red cable's not working. I'm nervous. Oh yeah, you got to be careful with CRTs, because if you touch the output of that cathode, that's a good game over right there. But like, the thing is, there's plenty of resources on YouTube on how to properly discharge the cathodes, particularly in Trinitrons, because all of those are well documented. So I'd highly recommend looking at one of those. But like, the input side of things, that might actually be far enough that you don't have to worry about it too much. Yeah, I think I burned that shielding a little bit. It should be perfectly fine. Oh, I soldered the green wire. Dang it. Or, don't mess with the TV at all. Yeah, I mean, it's something where if you don't feel comfortable with it, I don't recommend, like, almost any electronics, I'll tend to recommend, hey, go at it. The worst case scenario, you just break it worse. But CRTs, they are the one thing where it's like, no, it's alright. I love having the company. That's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to have like streams doing this, is just getting to, I guess, share my love of these kinds of like modifications and stuff with people. I'm debating. The thing is, it's going to make it difficult to stick into the VIA without, like, the nice thing about this is I don't have to work around anything, because they didn't populate this entire section of the board. I am going to go ahead and clean that up with some wick. And, but yeah, definitely love having company, so so chat away, for sure. This is already a short mod anyway. I was kind of worried that, honestly, this stream might just be a little bit too, I guess, short and dull, because, there's not a lot going on. Hopefully that completely missed it. Come on. I should. Now if we take you, put a little solder on there, CRTs, or tilting, or anything with AC powered. Yeah. Yep, that is something where you got to be very careful. That's the fortunate thing with most of these older consoles, is they are purely DC power, and the power supply adapts it, so that makes everything a little bit safer. Definitely, like, if you're learning, particularly the safety element of things, and like you're not comfortable discharging caps, you're not comfortable with anything like that, I would highly recommend starting with retro consoles, to even anybody who isn't into retro consoles, like, just because everything uses a power supply, pretty much. So there we go, that's beautiful. And we're just gonna put a little flux on there, bring a little solder in there. So crisis averted there. we got her all figured out. We're just gonna, I don't like bringing solder, but it's through a through hole, so we got plenty of flux on there, so just place it in there, and that should be beautiful. Okay.
I got excited the night at Sabres. They had a 42-inch plasma, and I've been wanting one that size with 720p. Well, I mean, there are merits to having a 720p plasma, though, particularly for seventh generation gaming, because a lot of the games are rendered 720p. That means you get perfect pixels. I've actually considered, when I end up moving, getting a 720p projector for those kinds of things, because like just seeing My Life in Gaming did a video comparing projectors, and just the beautiful pixels on 720p compared to like a 1080p projector, game changer. But most of the times the circuit isn't working though. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. 360 games are a huge reason to own something 720p native, because it doesn't scale perfectly with 1080. That looks a little weird, but I'm sure if I clean it up with a little bit of alcohol, it won't look that bad. It's just this shielding, like PVC shielding, is not what I'm used to. I tend to like silicone, so because it doesn't like burn at the end like this. But yeah, you got a good joint there. It's just the shielding's burnt. But yeah. So you want to learn how to discharge a cap pretty quick if you're gonna work in anything with AC. Do I just want to do like a straight line there? Probably. That's probably fine. Just clip maybe right about here so I have a little bit extra space. I want to do these as short as possible because they're carrying video signal, and these feel 30 ogs, so definitely don't want to do super long runs. Grab the cheap snips. Gonna have to try to strip wire with the cheap snips. That's gonna be fun. There we go. And that should work. We want our tweezers. It's $20, so I think I might grab it. Oh yeah, for $20 if it's fully working, that's a steal for a plasma. I've only just got to play 360 games on it for a few weeks. Oh yeah. I mean, for 360, you really can't go wrong with the 720p display, because just about none of the games render in 1080. Like, there might be some 2D ones, but for the most part, that is a 720p console, and so is the PS3. But that should work. Hopefully you guys can see what's going on. I tend to forget that I'm working under the microscope when I'm working under the microscope. So the nice thing about the overhead camera is you can see everything going on the overhead camera. But with the microscope, it's a very small view field. So yeah. So we got I suppose we'll go ahead and get that pad tinned. Put some flux down. My solder is all tangled naturally. Yeah, that and another thing I recommend is super thin solder as well for this kind of work, because then you just get so much more control over how much you're putting down. It makes it a little easier. But go ahead and pop some on there. There we go. Breathe in the cancer fumes. You can see very well. Oh, good. So definitely what I'm going for is just trying to, have a setup where it might not be the best setup ever made, but everything is very visible. That's the important thing. Come on. Okay. That's a start for a bond, I guess, there. Looks a little ugly, though. But yeah, not the best looking thing. Once again, I have a tendency to be a little bit of a perfectionist, so I redo my solder joints a little bit more than I think most people do, just to try to get it, so that everything looks 100%. And yeah, I thought this was single strand. This isn't single strand. They held together so well when I was tinning. So, when I dipped them in the flux, so I thought it was single strand, but I guess not. Or not stranded wire. Which, I mean, I tend to prefer working with stranded wire, but I like to Good thing you're not in California, otherwise you'd... Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Because probably everything on this desk would probably be known to cause cancer in the state of California. So, yeah, that's the... There we go. That's better. That, I think, looks good. More or less. We might... Once again, I like them to have that shine. So we will just... It should be shaped enough, I think, now, so that it should be easy enough to just pop that wire right down there. These are bent away from each other for some reason. Maybe the reason is because they're ridiculously cheap from Banggood, but breathing the air may cause cancer in the state. Yeah, pretty much. That's good enough for now. Then we'll need my RGB, which I believe it goes R8 is red, R9 is G, and R10 is B. I'm 99.9% sure that is the case, so we're gonna roll with it. So we're gonna go ahead and hopefully these ones will be a little bit easier because I forgot to tin the side of that. The one side of that wire. Once again, that's the massive difference that just tinning your stuff makes. So all of you guys learning out there, hopefully not for me, more or less. I mean, like, I think I'm decent, but I'm not like an expert by any means. I definitely don't do this like every day, day in and day out. There are people, you know, that you can learn from that are like, this is what they do for a living. You know, they solder stuff, essentially. And yeah, though it is something I very much enjoy, it is not something I do for a living. So wouldn't mind it. I've considered doing some, you know, modding just kind of as an extra thing. Like maybe, you know, installing simple stuff. Needs more flux. Yeah, you're probably right there. We definitely can't add too much flux to these vias because it doesn't necessarily always like to creep down there. But I think that should look pretty good. Clean it up a little bit, and yeah, once again, this PVC jacket just likes to burn super easily, but fortunately all these wires should just go directly straight like this. I think that's how I'm going to do it. And then should make everything look super nice by the time I'm done. So we will go ahead, get this stripped. Once again, using the cheap wire strippers. Or cheap wire strippers, the cheap not wire strippers, that's probably half the problem, but we're gonna go ahead and get that tipped. Get this pre-tinned. I could probably tin all these pads while I'm here. And I think I put tin on all these earlier. Or flux on all these earlier, but here we go. And then, fortunately, this wire is straight and pre-tinned, so it should just sit in there nice and easy. Now it's trying to bridge. And obviously the solution, more flux. Ideally. Come on. Just wanting to tack between blue and green there. Might need to take some off of there. There we go. That's good. That looks good, I think. No bridge. So, we'll take it. And we've got red. I mean, I suppose if I'm touching up soldering joints this much, might not be viable to do this in a commercial aspect, but it definitely, like, I'm thinking if anything, I would do it just enough to, just keep rubbing it. But I'm thinking if anything, it would give me more material to do these streams if I do, more, you know, I guess just, because, like, the thing is, I have tons of, extra consoles that I mean, realistically, yeah, I could just throw them up on eBay as is, but I could also mod them, and that gives me something to do that I enjoy doing. It, you know, makes material for streams, and I enjoy it, and it's fun. Stage 1 Boss is looking for somebody to fix his FM Towns Marty. I mean, I'm not sure if I would go into fixing things quite yet, just because, honestly, I mean, there's so many people who are more experienced in that element of things than me. I got that wrong. Oh, man. Maybe if my brain was working correctly. The B wire is, I mean, I have the blue wire in R8, and I have the red wire in R9 for some reason. Oh, what can you do? Easy fix, but it's a little strange that I cannot seem to get these done in the right order. Yeah, that'll be fine. We could take some off it as well. I have no idea why I keep mixing things up here. But not much you can do other than just repair it or fix it, and then not make the same mistake the next time, I say, but also that was the exact same mistake I made with the yellow wire, so what can I say? Go ahead and shave that off, tin it. At least I caught my mistake, because the way this mod falls in, you'll know if you're doing it in the wrong order. So that makes things a little bit easier. And I'm not even showing you the right vias. There we go. We got blue that goes into R10. Right. Oh, I might want to clean those up first. Just a little bit of solder wick. Some flux. Should clean these up perfectly. Yep, that looks good. And we'll just probably need a little heat on the iron to put the other ones in, but this will get my finger in the flux. If I can manage to get this thing in here. Alright. Cut off. Oh, I think I might have missed. Hello from the YouTubes. Hey, Similarian. Welcome to the stream via the YouTubes. Yeah, I'm doing this over Restream, so I have both my YouTube channel and my Twitch channel. I figure that way it's kind of the best of both worlds, because I get the VOD on YouTube and the live from Twitch, so it ends up kind of working out. That, and anybody who... You received 100 messages today with Restream. Thank you very much, Restream. I appreciate that. You're not going to use it. Acts like heatsink. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I definitely probably should. But this iron like puts out so much heat that I've never had issues cleaning up with a braid with it. But that would probably be the right way to do it. Yeah. For sure. Alright. That looks like solid, so we'll go ahead and do green next. And this one I did already tint, didn't I? I might have tinned it. I can't remember. We're gonna do it anyway. Might as well. You can never tint something too many times, so. Once again, you never introduce too much flux into the equation. That is, I mean, a lot of flux is definitely the most valuable crutch for somebody who's inexperienced doing something, I guess you could say. But that one's in now, and then we just it'll be easier to do this one right-handed. There we go. And we'll need to, oh, I forgot I hadn't cut this one yet, so. Okay, we will go ahead and cut this one about right here. That should work. I suppose that was probably off the microscope. I was just lining up where I was going to do this, cut this wire down so that it is as short as possible while making the connection. So, which is definitely the goal with video signals. You do not want to make them overly long, because that can be a factor in quality. So, and you definitely do not want to make your quality any poorer than it has to be. So, we're going to go ahead and put some flux on there. And it probably needs maybe slightly more flux, slightly less solder. So yeah, that's the difficult thing about these. These pads don't hold a lot of solder on them. So there we go. That should look good. Then we just have red. And red should maybe already be cut to length. Red, I don't think I have cut to length. Okay. So we are going to go ahead and... But it is tinned. Add popper and R8. Try to ideally get it all the way in the via. But that might be difficult. Come on. Yeah, I just want to mess up the wire now. We will just do a fresh cut. Try this other side. That one is also tinned, so we're good there. Alright, that should be good and in. So we just need to put a little bit more. It's at least on the via good. So once again, a little bit nicer if you can run them through the vias, but honestly, it doesn't really make a huge difference as long as it's soldered onto the pad of the via. Then you're good. And then we can go ahead and... I'm making these maybe a little bit longer than I would if I was experienced at this mod, but I'm just, you know, playing it a little safer than I probably need to, honestly. And I don't think I'm going to pre-tin this. I think there's already enough solder on this pad, honestly, that we are... We could do with sucking maybe a little bit into the wire, but... A little bit of flux then. Naturally lose the wire. A little bit of downward pressure. I think that looks pretty adequate. Green wire is a little longer than it needs to be, but, well, it kind of just juts out and doesn't look as pretty. There we go. We can probably do a little something with Kapton tape to make it look a little bit nicer, but we can go ahead and zoom out just to show you kind of the finished project and product. Well, we'll look at this under the microscope quick to make sure it's well, we'll put some alcohol on here because no doubt it's all already dried up. We'll brush this down. I'd say those all look pretty decent for cheap kit wire. So, not like amazing, but once again, using PVC shielded wire, it's not going to look like amazing, you know, unfortunately. We can push green a little bit that way. There we go. Cut there. Just hey Mudu, welcome to the stream. How you doing? Yeah, we just I verified it's not the cables or sorry, I hadn't been reading chat as much. So what would you do to troubleshoot the red component plug not working? So 99.9% of the time, and I actually have a perfect project for this that I will probably get to right after this, actually, because my plan was to do this N64, and if I got done with it in enough, you know, quickly enough, my plan was to next, we'll just go ahead and switch to the capture camera. Hopefully, it fell asleep. Sometimes it does that. I'm using the video out on a Sony Alpha 6000, so it looks super nice, but it's not necessarily designed for this. So, there we go. But I've actually got a Retron 3 that has the exact same problem, spotty video. So, so we'll go through that and kind of do the troubleshooting on it. But it's that one I know it's going to be a faulty jack. So, and that's 99.9% of the time going to be your problem if you just lose video. And particularly if the jack feels at all loose. But that being said, we can kind of go through it and hypothetically say the jack's not the problem. Well, what would I look for? And that would be voltage coming from the video circuitry to that jack. So, and then find out where it's lost, because it can also be a faulty capacitor as well. So you'd basically just trace the voltage back. I've verified it's not the cables or the devices. He's making a bomb. Everybody, you're welcome back, Mudu. Hopefully now that it's zoomed out a little bit, you can see that it's not a bomb. It is, in fact, a Nintendo 64. So, and it is a Nintendo 64 that is hopefully now RGB modded, and that we can actually, for the most part, test like this, I believe. I don't think there's anything else I need to do to it. I think it's just about perfect. So, we can go ahead and plug her in and see what happens. See if we get RGB out of it. So we can go ahead and unplug my
stupid add-on box for my OSSC because that's not needed anymore. I'm kidding. I love you, add-on box, but I love RGB better. So, let's see. We need. It's gonna be SCART. It was on the right input actually. So, there you go. I just have a different device plugged into it. I'm gonna power everything off here. Before I fiddle around with this, because RGB does carry 5 volts and you don't want it to go to the wrong place. And we are going to find our Insurrection Industries RGB cable, because I brought the good RGB cable down here, because I don't want the problem to be the RGB cable if it's not working. So place your bets now in the chat if this is going to work or not. I mean, I'm thinking that this went straightforward enough. It should probably work. But that being said, it's anybody's guess if it actually works or not. But we should be able to just get everything plugged in like this. I should be able to find, hopefully, my copy of Mario Kart. Ideally. We will use the legit copy. We don't have any power plugged in, so I can just stick my hands all around this freely. And then we need our power supply. Ideally the one that is already plugged in. Well, actually, I might need to unplug it and plug it back in, just for, you know, well, it's 5 volts. It's not going to kill me. And we get power. So that's good. I guess it was already on. Let's see. $3 not working. Unfortunately, yes. $3.10. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and see if this ends up deciding to work. I've got it just kind of haphazardly sort of put together here, because you don't want to do any more building it out than you have to. Let's see. It's saying AV1 RGBS no sync. Unfortunately, you never know if it's actually the console or if it's the game just not making good contact. So I would think I'd get something though here. Unless I'm missing something essential. I don't think I am. I might run some alcohol into this quick. Maybe. Did I already put my cartridge cleaner back? I think I did, actually. Yes, I did. So there you go. Blow on it. I don't want to blow on it. I don't want to get... I just cleaned this cartridge port. I don't want to get all my germs in there. But, we can put a copious amount of alcohol in there to try to make the contact work. And, well, there's no reason audio shouldn't work. That's the thing. So, I mean, I would assume it's probably... I'm going to try plugging in the composite again to make sure it's not a issue with that. Or make sure it's actually reading the cartridge, because we were having this problem earlier and it just wasn't reading the cartridge. So, which is a ridiculously common problem for Nintendo 64. So, where is this cable going to? That's the difficult thing. Eventually, my plan is to have a proper test bunch where I specifically have things set up to test things out. But for now, I don't have that set up, so it's just pretty much... we turn that one on first, I believe, then this one. And we have the signal. We get this on. working on AV. It was. That's the thing. I had cleaned it. It worked the last couple times I tried it, and now it's not. And it's not working on S-Video either. So, and nothing that I did should be keeping the S-Video from working. So, oh boy. Let's make sure that's plugged in well. This could just be oxidized. I am getting nothing. Use the heat gun. I don't know if that would help with this particular scenario, but why am I getting nothing? Try the counterfeit. See if that works. Oh boy. To heat up the caps? I mean, that could potentially help, but if that's the problem, then I have other problems I have to worry about, like replacing the caps sooner than I thought. Did I just plug the cartridge in backwards? I might have just plugged the cartridge in backwards. Oh boy. Why do I get nothing on this Nintendo 64? That is bizarre. Try composite again. This kind of stuff always happens. Like, the thing is, nothing that I did should affect the composite video. So I know it's an issue console side, not with the mod, but I don't know why it isn't working. I'm gonna try cleaning inside the cartridge port again. That seemed to wake it up before. If not, then I don't know what's going on. I've tried it across 2 different cartridges, and it's not wanting to read each one, or either one. I mean, granted, this cartridge port doesn't look the cleanest ever. It's not super, like, I don't have the screws in for it, so that could be a potential issue. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what's going on with it. Try that. See if we get anything. Poke the wrong thing with the iron? I don't think so. Yeah, I mean... This is so bizarre. I mean... I can double check my work with the iron, but in case I might have hit something, but I don't think that would be it. I mean, I don't think I hit anything. Let me just look closely here. That's all good. That's all good. Nothing up there to hit. RG and B caps all look good. Yeah, everything looks perfect. Huh. Maybe try removing the cartridge connector. And, oh, jeez. Yeah, the cartridge connector looks, let's go back to the camera here quick. I might have to grab a different cart. Well, I've tried, like, both of the, like, counterfeit and non-counterfeit copies of Mario Kart, but that cartridge connector doesn't look particularly amazing in terms of cleanliness, so I'm going to try cleaning that first. But yeah, if not, I'm going to maybe try to grab a different cart, see what happens. I don't know. I don't want to run through too many test carts in case I, like, really screwed something up. And I mean, I don't think I'd ever, you know, be able to put it in a situation where it, like, blows up cartridges or something like that, but you never know. That was pretty dirty. Clean the pins as well. Goes on like this, right? Maybe like this. Yeah, the arrow points to the arrow, I'm guessing. Try that and see if that changes anything. Need. I'm not sending it on anything conductive right now. Okay. We need our composite cable and our power supply. Power it on. And nothing. Make sure you have the jumper. Master 801. I would be troubleshooting this for God knows how long. Oh my. Thank you. Oh my. Yeah, this would help. This would definitely help. Oh my goodness. I could see myself troubleshooting that for a full day. Man, like. Okay. Ah, thank you so much, Master 801. See, that's why I do these on streams. So, essentially, if I screw everything up, I have somebody to correct me. But yeah, so that's composite. That's composite, so that works. But, hey, we got under the cartridge port and cleaned it, so I bet now for 49 cents. Okay, now place your bets to see if the mod works. With the jumper pack plugged in. Yeah, who knew? The thing that needs to be there in order for the console to work needs to be there in order for the console to work. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was a pretty severe fail, but once again, Master 801, you saved me like hours there, no doubt. All right, now we have everything plugged in and the OSSC on. We're placing our bets now. Let's go. All right, well now we know. So not the jumper pack. We'll check this. It was plugged in the exact same way. Power is on. And we got the RGB cable plugged in.
Okay. That is strange. And we'll double check. With composite, it is running, right? Because this has been spotty, so. Got any audio? I should have checked. Yeah, that would be a sensible thing to have done. I'm just gonna double check this first, and then I'll make sure I have audio over SCART. And I don't have the cable plugged in yet. This one plugged back in. Pause it. Audio left, audio right. And so I think SCART audio should be there regardless. Well, right now I'm not getting video. I had to go in RGB mod, the spottiest Nintendo 64 in history. Oh my goodness, you can't be serious. What the heck? Double check, make sure that's plugged in well, that's plugged in well, this is plugged back in. Okay, I got a beep out of it. Okay, so now it is currently running. So we are going to unplug it while it is running the game. Because right now it's working. Right now we have picture. I swear, I had to choose to mod the spottiest N64 in the history of N64s. Just to make my life more difficult. Oh boy. Okay, we got the... That feels weird. Put this in. Nothing. Oh, it's not powered on. That would probably help. There we go! Oh my goodness. Here's a Nintendo 64 in beautiful RGB. All it took is what? What was that? Probably 17 tries? Oh my goodness. Now if I can get my controller lead unplugged, we can make sure that works. Yeah, it only took 17 tries, and we got there in the end. But this is running through RGB. So the beautiful picture you see here now from the beautiful Nintendo 64 is the pretty much as good as it gets. So there you go. That's something to be happy about, right? It took about 2 hours. Yeah, pretty much. And beautiful 16:9 too, because the aspect ratio is wrong. But I think it looks pretty good. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that looks decent. It definitely functions. So there's that. We can put it through its proper paces here and properly test it with a little bit of Mario Kart for a moment. So get out of my way. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's Yoshi in RGB glory. You know, honestly, like, there is something to say about having your mod not work at first, and then it turns out being something stupid, and it makes you feel better about it. Because, like, I mean, my Pico worked perfectly on the first try, right? So, like, there's nothing too exciting about that, right? But this... So now we're just going to need to really put some love into that cartridge port. But I think when we do that, that'll be good. And I think the video quality looks pretty great. I think, honestly, there's nothing really here to complain about. I don't see any issues. It looks like Nintendo 64 and RGB. So, there you go. Jeez, people throwing bananas off. Oh, well, there you go. Alright. I was kind of hoping that would trip Mario there, but that didn't. This is a fun game. Alright, so we got that part done. So now the next part is fixing the spottiness of this Nintendo 64, because, I mean, ideally, I would like it to work every time. So, lots of terms, yeah. Okay. Any audio? Oh, yeah. Alright, so, I think I've caught up on chat. But yeah, overall, I would call that a success, though it did take a good minute to get to it. So we are going to go ahead and aggressively clean the contacts on this Nintendo 64. The cartridge port needs to be like fully cleaned up, I think. And we might hit it with the oxid. So, So yeah, we're sort of turning this into a semi-repair situation now. Celebratory nose bleeding. I swear I've had this cold for like 3 weeks now. But yeah, heat sinks aren't too hot, so can't complain. I almost feel half the need to leave the jumper pack in there just in case, but we're just gonna leave it right there, and we're gonna do a full little cleanup on this console because I think it deserves it for being working now. So that, and I think I deserve it because that's enough troubleshooting on one N64 for one lifetime. So we're gonna go ahead and use my cartridge cleaner. And we are going to go crazy on this port. And we're going to start with some alcohol. Then we'll probably hit it with some deoxit. Using the official performance cartridge cleaner. This stream... Oh, that's gross. Yeah. Well, there you go. I didn't actually ever look at this, pulling that out, but yeah, that's pretty rough. All right, yeah, we're just gonna go at this pretty hard, and I wanna like put the game in and have it work like 5 times straight. That's how I will be like okay with it, right? Because I don't like having to like I get enough of that from my Nintendo, right? I have to. There's a particular like English you have to give that cartridge to get my Nintendo to actually read games. So with the N64, I don't want to have to deal with that. We could just flush this thing out with alcohol at this point. You know what? I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is why they invented contact cleaner. So we are going to use that. I'm here fussing around with alcohol. I have something that can just spray contact cleaner straight into this port. There we go. Smells like contact cleaner now. Which is good. Oh, yeah. We're just gonna... You can see the dirt, like, collect on the, on the cartridge cleaner. WD-40, that smell is glorious. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, like, the WD-40 contact cleaner smells awfully like WD-40. I swear, WD-40 has a bunch of different products, but it's just badge engineering. They just put WD-40 in everything. That's my conspiracy theory. But hey, what do I know, right? I suppose they make white lithium and silicon greases, so you'd be able to probably tell on those. But contact cleaner, it's anybody, you know, it's difficult to say if you'd be able to tell if it's different. Get this cloth out of here now. Can almost go over it with compressed air to try to get this out, but it's the difficult thing with the sharp edges. It's catching on my towel. Soldering iron went to sleep. That's good on it. It deserves a little bit of a break. I didn't know they made different stuff. Yeah, they make all kinds of stuff. They make a pretty popular white lithium grease. Their silicon grease is also, I think, fairly popular. Lots of different options from them. I think we're gonna treat this to some of the good stuff right here. Oh, this stuff. You know it's good because it runs $15 a bottle. So we're also going to spray it very, very conservatively. There we go. All right. And we are going to plunge that into the cartridge slot. And we'll probably let that dry organically. We're also probably going to go ahead and hit these... where did I put it? I have to know where my bottle of deoxit is at all. What was that? This is keg deoxit. It removes oxidization from things like super good. It is an absolute must-have if you have old audio equipment, or if you have like anything with potentiometers, or anything that can really get oxidized and you don't want it oxidized. Like that is like it's $15 a bottle, but it works so much better than anything else that it is 100% worth it. I mean, like, obviously it doesn't work as good as like a pink eraser and, you know, friction cleaning on a lot of stuff, but like with something like this, you don't have that option. So like with these pins, you kind of, well, you don't have the option to use a like eraser or anything like that. My subwoofer rumbles when I turn the volume knob. I think the internet said to clean it. Yeah, this would absolutely be the stuff to use. It knocks out oxidization like nothing else. Obviously they're not paying me to say this, but nobody's paying me to say anything. Nobody wants to pay for my opinion, but but this is absolutely the stuff to use if you have oxidized contacts. Like, I was so hesitant on buying a bottle for the longest time because it's like, it's $15 for a little bottle, but man, it's worth every penny. All right, and then we can go ahead and get the we can do this side as well. Not that I'm gonna plug a N64 DD into it anytime soon, but we can just kind of clean it for posterity's sake. That's good. And we can go ahead and shoot contact cleaner down the controller ports. Not that they typically have issues, but it doesn't hurt. There we go. And then we can hit the board with some IPA and the toothbrush and just get it all cleaned up. Because this metal here looks a little dirty. Just like how I solve all of my problems, I just drown it in alcohol and that typically takes care of it. There we go. That is beautiful, and I don't see any leaking or bulging capacitors, so that is good, though I do still plan on, just for the sake of, you know, preservation and not having any issues in the future, I do plan on doing a full cap job on this guy. I hope I didn't hear like a crack or something like that when I hit that one. But I'm just gonna hit the other side with some alcohol, then do the back. Try not to hit the processor or anything like that. I don't want to damage the thermal pads or anything, but just there we go. That should be good for that side. And then hit the back with some alcohol. Alright. These controller ports. Brush them out a little bit. And then what we'll probably do is we'll go ahead and spray a little bit of contact cleaner in both the switch and the button. Give it a good couple of cycles there. There's another button here. Reset button, that's what that one's typically called. But you can call it the other button too. Nobody will judge. Alright. Though the N64 only has one button. It has a button and a switch, but... Okay. Good. And we can clean out the multi-out port too. A little bit of contact cleaner. Just spray it right in there. Use my small... Well, I didn't bring my small cartridge cleaner kit. Well, we'll use a toothbrush and just be careful with it. Might as well clean the multi out, make sure the connections are nice and shiny. More or less, yep. Okay. Clean this up. I like giving my consoles a good clean when you have to wait a long time for it to dry. Oh, not at all. It evaporates, probably not as fast as alcohol, but pretty fast. And I mean, overall, most of this aerosol stuff, it's already wanting to be in a gaseous state anyway. It's wanting to, you know, get rid of the water content in it. So, I mean, I'm sure this cartridge port is already like bone dry. So, if it'll focus. But yeah, like it's completely dry on the outside, and I'm sure it's probably dry on the inside by now. So, go ahead and line it up, pop it back in, and then we'll see if it does 10 rounds of starting first try every time. That'll kind of be my standard for it. And if it does that, then I think we should be good. He says as he struggles to get the things lined up. There we go. That fits in there good. Alright. And it's all non-conductive, so I believe it even features on the bottle that somewhere it says it's non-conductive. So I think it's non-conductive. Oh yeah, wait 2 minutes before turning on equipment, so it's probably conductive, but it goes pretty quick. Wonder why they made the cartridge port removable. You'd think they'd solder that sucker in. Yeah, I mean, they've always done it in the past. They've always soldered the cartridge port in on Nintendo consoles. I guess other than the NES, now that I think about it, the NES, it has a cartridge port soldered in, and it has the 32-pin connector. Well, it doesn't actually have a cartridge port on it. It has bare pins on the board that it just slides right onto, which is part of why they're not reliable. So I guess this is probably why these are so unreliable. I wish there was a good way of just straight up soldering it in, but I mean, you could. I don't know. If it ends up working out to be reliable for me, then I won't. But if it isn't reliable, then I might make that a project, soldering in the cartridge port. But I have no idea why they don't solder it in, or why they didn't solder it in. I mean, that would just make sense, to be honest. But I think it's been been long enough to leave this guy kind of sitting now. So we should be able to get everything plugged back in, turned back on, and do our test where we try to see if it'll do 10 power cycles. I mean, that's what I'm going for anyway. 10 cycles where it just works perfectly. If I can find my power adapter. Oh yeah, don't forget I'm assuming you're talking about, I'm using a jumper pack on this one right now, but I have the expansion pack in this Nintendo 64 right here, so that was originally going to be my candidate for the mod, but it's like, well, I already have a N64 that's had its, a Japanese N64 that's had its, like, back things removed so it can play both US and Japanese games, so I figured I might as well go ahead and use the one that I don't have to cut that out or install a different thing or whatever. I think I was using the Japanese power supply. So, pop that back in. Just like that should be fine, I think. Put that in. Goes like this. Pop in. And we'll alternate between the counterfeit copy and the real copy of Mario Kart. So, go ahead and do that. Switch it over, and well, that's not a good start. I just cleaned it out just about as well as you can. Jeez. I do have the right connector, right? Yes, I do have the RGB connector. The OSSC is on. Maybe I should solder this connector in today. Okay, we got one, but it didn't work the first try, and that's what bothers me. 2. 3. Okay, now it's working. Maybe I just needed to push that cartridge in better and seat it in better. I did notice it almost sounds like it makes a little, like, electrical beep when it actually reads the cartridge. Yeah, now it seems to be doing it every time. Yeah, it just needed to warm up, pretty much. Oh yeah, now she's ridiculously reliable. Look at this. The save data on these cartridges is going to be so corrupted. Oh, jeez. Oh. This is the illegitimate cart. Did I break it? Nope. It just did something weird there once, but I don't think it's the console's fault. I think it's just the FPGA in this cart isn't used to being cycled on and off constantly. Yeah, I think this is reliable enough for me. I think this is reasonable, right? Yeah, I mean, as long as you seat it in there, good. I mean, there is a part of me that wants to tear into this sucker and solder that cartridge port in. Just for the sake of reliability, if anything. You think I should do it? I'll leave it to you guys. You think I should solder that sucker in? If I could figure out how to remove the bottom... Oh yeah, the bottom is soldered. Like, they soldered the bottom port in. Sim says no. So, well, if Sim says no, then we're probably fine. I will use it like this, and if it gives me problems in the future, then I might have to go ahead and solder it in. But I'm thinking, like, it might just be because, honestly, these aren't screwed in, and when I pull the cartridge up, it might lift up on it a little bit. And if I don't put that cartridge in super firmly, then it doesn't push it back down. So that's what I'm going to bank on the issue being. But that's just me. So we'll go ahead and get this all put back together. See how it works put together. Might just be more solid hold. Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, honestly, I'm generally non-particular. If it works 50% of the time, all the time, then I'm good. Honestly, it doesn't really hurt me too much having it work 50% of the time, all the time, right? But it's just that, like, you know, when I had, the beginning of the stream, and when I was testing the RGB mod and that kind of thing, and it just constantly didn't work, that would be something where it's like, okay, I'm going to play something else at this point, right? So we're going to go ahead and get this outer casing cleaned. Part of me almost wants to just throw it in the ultrasonic, but I don't think we have time for that today. That, and it would be really obnoxious to listen to for the stream. Because honestly, like, this N64 only... Oh, well, you can't see from there. But it only just has the sticker on it. So you could just heat that up, remove it, throw this in the ultrasonic. But honestly, it's not that bad. I'm probably just going to hit it with some... my item of choice... might just be more... Yeah. But my cleaner of choice, Armor All Protectant. It's designed to clean plastics, so gives them a good clean and shine. And is generally very plastic safe. It's very inert, so it doesn't damage your plastics. I'm not a plastergy expert, but I did just drop the power LED diffuser out of this Nintendo 64, so what do I know? And of course it's on my basement floor, so finding it is going to be near impossible. Where's my cell phone? I need a flashlight. Oh geez, this stream is... things are going great. You wouldn't believe it, but the Pico boot install that I did yesterday, it went perfectly. Like, as good as anything can ever go. Like, just soldered that sucker right in, worked first try, no questions, just 100% easy money, right? This situation, not so much. Not so much. So, that being said, I did overall enjoy it. And this is a mod that I would consider selling for sure. I mean, you know, if I actually marketed it for sale for one, I'd probably use Voltar's boards because I like supporting the original creator of the mod. It's just that he did not have a restock date on his boards. And now, of course, since I go to do this stream, they restock on the 28th, I think. So I might end up buying one with a Turbo Duo RGB mod and go from there. But and then I might just RGB mod my other Nintendo 64 and have a backup, you know, in case this one doesn't read cartridges, hypothetically. Anyway. This is the fun part of the stream where y'all get to watch me clean whatever I'm working on. Everybody's favorite part because it's just so exciting and interesting, right? Yeah, I apologize. It's just part of it. You can't really escape this. I don't want to just put it together and then, you know, have to take it apart again to clean it, right? So, at least I did find the plastic piece. I was worried that it was never going to show up, so, yeah. That goes right in like that. And then, let's see, what parts do we have? And this is, I believe, an authentic shell. They just filed out, yeah, they just cut out the pins that block a US cartridge from going in. So there you go. Yeah, so that's in now. And then I suppose the next step from here is the heatsink, which goes on in a way that goes on the board. I believe it's this piece right here. No, it's this piece right here. There we go. Followed by this piece right here. And then this piece right here goes up here, like this. Look at that. From memory, no less. There you go. Okay, and then it's just this. I could probably clean up all these. Oh, there's another metal piece too. That goes somewhere. Where do you go? Where do you live? Not up there, for sure. Does it go on the bottom of the console? It probably goes on the bottom of the console. Probably goes down here somewhere. Like that. Oh yeah, yep, it goes like that. Almost missed a piece, but that's okay. So for metal... Oh, sorry. Jeez. I still have it on the capture. Thank you for reminding me, Sim. That is something that I am going to have to get used to a little bit, for sure, is getting things correct for viewing angles and whatnot. And, like, actually remembering to switch things around. I think I'm just going to use alcohol on the metal. Generally for metal, I just try to find something that's inert, dries quickly, and doesn't introduce moisture, because rust is obviously a factor when it comes to metal, so. Yeah, I just use vinegar, hydrogen peroxide, and top it off with a little bit of sulfuric acid. That's the way you do metal, right? Yeah. I just came up with an easy way to turn all of your metal brown. It's the brown metal mod for your Nintendo 64 or whatever. This goes here somehow. There we go. Okay. That goes there, more or less. Doesn't feel it. There we go. Now it's catching. Okay. Then this goes here and falls into place somehow. Like that. Perfect. And then we'll just go ahead and continue cleaning these up with alcohol. Definitely dusty, but that's okay. It's okay to be dusty. I've tried to, spend my life learning how to accept that, so this can live with it. Alright. Gentle blow on it. That's in good. And we got this little piece right here. Goes around the expansion pack. Did I ever clean out the expansion pack? I don't think I did. So we're going to go ahead and just do that quick. A little bit of contact cleaner and a smaller... Yeah, I know I didn't, because I don't have my smaller cartridge port cleaner. So I can't remember if the medium size one will fit in there. I think that's the medium-sized one. I don't know. That's the wrong thing for this job. This is the right thing now. Just go ahead. Not that this is a common failure point for contact, but it doesn't hurt to clean it up. Do a complete job. But yeah, who knows? You might see me offering this service in the future somehow. And I definitely continue to do like the whole live streaming thing. I think that could be a fun element of it. So you could see your Nintendo 64 get cleaned. I don't know what this is. I don't think it's part of a Nintendo 64 though. Oh, this is probably part of that fake Mario Kart cartridge. So there you go. But yeah, I just enjoy this kind of thing, so I think we have a little bit of a gap there, so I'd probably want to learn how to assemble a Nintendo 64 first, but after that, as soon as I do that, definitely. There we go. That is good. That looks right. That looks correct. That is what I like to see. Okay. And then we just have the top. We're not missing any pieces. I just want to make sure. This would be the beauty of having two benches, would be that I don't have to worry about, you know, not having any space on my bench. Okay, so we should be good there. So we're going to go ahead. I believe it's just all the little screws, for the most part, that go up here. Probably also wouldn't hurt to get a proper set of JIS screws or screwdrivers. That doesn't feel right. You go here. Yeah. So just sort of, trying to remember how these all go, screws wise. I know this is all little screws up here. That one's the right size for that. This one, I know these ones are all really short screws right here. So I honestly probably should have kept track, but I didn't, so what can you do? Eventually I'll memorize it. Though, now that I think about it, they weren't incorrectly when I took the console apart, because I know there was some, like, that weren't the right length in the right places, so somebody took it apart before. And it was missing a screw, too, so that doesn't help. Another tiny screw. One thing I've noticed with Nintendo consoles, they really don't undersupply the screws. Like, you don't have to worry about them falling apart. The GameCube disc drive is held on with 12 screws. This heatsink here alone is held on with like 9. Like, Nintendo really does not want their stuff falling apart. So, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just when you're servicing it, you have to clear out a full day on your calendar for, you know, this. I was going to not do this for now, originally, but it looks like the heatsink is probably vital for reliability and whatnot, so we don't want to make this console irreliable by any means, so we are going to do everything correctly to the best of our ability, and we're going to put it back together more or less properly with all the right screws in all the right places, in theory. Okay, I think that's the last tiny screw. That feels right. Okay, so then we got I know these long, tiny head screws go in the expansion, or the this guy right here, and that is a Phillips 0. No extra screws. Where did my I'm missing. Oh, are you the Phillips 0? You're Phillips 1. I don't know where my Phillips 0 bit went. Well, this goes on. This we probably don't want to forget. It's a good thing I didn't screw everything back down. There we go. Yeah, we need a Phillips 0. I guess I will use one of my secondary ones here for now, and hope that that turns up. I don't know how I managed to lose screws working on a workbench, but what can you do? They're bits. Screw that in. Nice and snug. But not too snug. And then we got the cartridge port ones that are super long. I do remember those. There are these ones here. And they are probably Phillips 1. I don't know. I've ran between Phillips 2, Phillips 1, and Phillips 0 with all these screws. And sometimes it does actually feel like there are 3 different types of screws here. So this feels more or less correct. Yes. Okay. And that is nice and tight. These, or these, I think it's these, are the ones with these guys on them. I do remember that. You go right here. Then there's another one of you that goes right there. That's not the right one. Let's sort these out, sort of, so I can kind of confirm which ones are which. So those are all the game bit screws. And we got the other one of those. This is a lot of screws, guys. Like, Nintendo did not want these falling apart in shipping. I can tell you that much. Anybody who says the Nintendo 64 is underbuilt when it comes to the amount of screws department is sorely mistaken. And now that I think about it too, I need to remember the feet things. They're over here. I'll put them in the parts tray for now. I think there are 2 of these little black screws that go right here. So once again, don't judge me too hard. This is my own Nintendo 64, and I'm doing this all from memory. So for the sake of making the stream a little bit more entertaining and posing a little bit of a challenge, always important. And I think we'll still probably have time to get to that Retron 3, so I can kind of show you the troubleshooting process that I would use to diagnose a faulty port. It's kind of funny how we happen to have 2 things with very similar faults. So, all right. So that's all that. And then you are game bit. And then all these, I think, are almost uniform. And there's 2 that are Same size, but I think slightly different there. I think most of these are identical. It's just that the coating. No, these ones are not identical. These two are the same as each other. We got another one of, and then we got, yeah, these are all different, but they're the same as each other. So we got two different types of screw left for the rest of this. So I am gonna guess that the small guys are gonna go right here. They look like they might be threaded the same too. That's gonna be interesting. Soon. This is definitely threaded right for this hole anyway, so and it screws all the way in. And this one's identical to that one. It goes like this. Perfect. I'm assuming they might have used these ones as just the ones that screw into plastic. So they look to be. They look like interestingly galvanized. That's what they look. What do I know, right? They definitely have that. They almost look like brass clad, more or less, but they're like some kind of weird alloy. And we got two of the short ones left. These long ones that I'm guessing go just straight through here. No, that might be a short one. I might have mixed some of these up. Yeah, there's only 4 of those, so these might be the long ones. Does that screw in? No, that's just a hole that goes through the case. Now there's 4 of the long ones, and then 6 of the short ones. And there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Short ones probably go in the middle. Yes, okay. That feels right. So we were almost right until, like, right up until the end there, so. But I'm pretty confident with that, so. And it doesn't hurt anything to put the shorter ones in the wrong place first, so. We'll take it. I'm not going to question that too much. So we're going to go ahead and start this. Into that a little foolhardy, just, you know, going right in with the electric. Alright, just be very careful on this and hope that this is the right one. But now that I think about it, the screw well here looks. No? Yeah, maybe. Nope. Nope, that's not. That's not a short one. I mean, that's not only one. Is it? You're short, you're long. Some of these screws are just slightly longer than the others. So, that makes it all confusing. That feels right. So we will undo this one, because I'd assume these use the same screw. Yeah, that feels right. So then just to
this one is, like, because those screw wells look so long, right? Like, maybe I'm just going crazy, but I'm pretty sure that these are the...
Yeah, that long screw goes in perfect there.
Try this one. Because you'd think if it's 4 and 6, right? And logically, these ones... Yeah, this one... I need to invest in some proper bits, I guess, because these are being ridiculous. I don't know why I'm dedicating so much time to this either, considering the fact that I am very soon going to be pulling this apart anyway to replace all of its caps. So, doesn't really make a ton of sense, but that one's definitely got to be short. That one doesn't thread in. Now that one's a case screw. Oh yeah, it's the other side. My brain is just not working. There we go. That's good. I definitely feel like these ones go into metal. Like these look like ones that would go into metal. But that hole is not deep enough for these ones. That seems correct. And it's just this one that's going to feel weird. I think. This one's going to feel like it's too long, but what can you do? Or maybe both of these sides take longer ones. The ones that go through the holes here. So that one felt like it went on there weird. I'm not gonna worry about that. It's in good and secure. So note to self: if I end up offering this as a service, I will need to invest in more magnetic parts trays and label them 1 through like 5 or whatever, and then know which ones are which. There you go. This is a learning experience. It's a learning experience. So. Next up, we got to clean up the shell, and that's pretty much it. And we'll just pop the power and reset buttons out because they always get crusty and nasty. Pop the door off too. Spray this down with some Armor All. Dusty's console cleaner of choice. And it looks like we got a little scuff, so what I'm going to do... we got 2 scuffs. 2 different scuffs. 2 unique scuffs. Learning experience. A learning experience that will never end. Yes, exactly. Everything's a learning experience if you try to justify it enough, really. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and polish these scratches out very carefully with some Meguiar's Plastics. Because it is not only great for restoring headlights to their proper sheen, but it is great for buffing out little scratches in game consoles. Look at that. Beautiful. And shining up the jewels on GameCubes. Beautiful. And then we might even just, you know, hit this N64 logo nice and light. Get her shined 100% because she's a little scuffed. So you got our little, after the initial hit of Plastex there, we're going to put a little bit more on her. Don't need to use too much. Just a little bit will do it. And then it can work best for like kind of deeper scratches in this type of material to just take the Plastex, spread it over the afflicted area, let it harden for a little bit to essentially gain a little bit more grit, right? Just for a little bit, and you can even wave the part through the air a little bit just to give it more air contact. And then with a little bit of a buff, and that improved her a little bit. We're going to hit her with a little bit more. This is a multi-step process because the thing is, you don't want to use something super abrasive like a Mr. Clean's Magic Eraser or something like that, or else you're going to get a bunch of micro scratches, and that is not what you want, right? You just want to coat it, leave it for a minute, and then scratch it, and then buff it, and then it'll take layer by layer off until you get to the desired effect. So that's what we go for. We're not going for a race, we're going for a marathon, so to speak, when it comes to that kind of stuff. So we're going to go ahead and hit this with some Plastex and clean these up while we're waiting for that to harden a little bit, because I put a little bit more on there this time around, because some of those scratches run kind of deeper. But yeah, realistically, if you want to like buff a full console in that, it's probably the best way of going about things. Like if something's really a deep gouge, then you can hit it with a Mr. Clean's Magic Eraser or something like that. But you should never use a Magic Eraser unless you're like removing a gouge or something, because it's really just a high grit sandpaper. So, or it effectively works just like a high grit sandpaper. So you don't want to hit a console with that all over and then take off its entire texture. Like, it'll look really shiny, but it won't look correct. So there's Dusty's console polishing tips. Alright, that's a good and clean power button. So now we can go back to this. Just had a chance to kind of dry up a little bit. And we give it a good little polish. And I would say it's improving for sure. We're getting some of that, like, big scuff in the front out. But it's definitely shinier. Like, really shiny. Like, the camera doesn't want to focus on it shiny. So yeah, we will maybe hit it with some... So this is another thing I use. And mine is, like, horribly old. So it's all separated and gotten all, like, it won't recongeal, so I'm probably going to need to order more from JFJ. But Polishing Compound 1, so pretty much this you'll use, and it looks absolutely horrible once again, because it's just, I have had this around forever, and it's just all gotten all gross and whatnot. But still seems to work. At least it worked on the GameCube Jewel. Hit this with that. And that is pretty good improvement. I mean, you could go at this all day and get that shined up to like brand new. But that's good enough for now, I would say. You could even hit something with a little bit more grit on there, and it would take those right off. But then you'd worry about losing the original sheen of the logo. So, but that shines it up super nice, so that, like, you know, at a distance test, it looks perfect. So I'm more interested in
what they would call a 5-foot car, so to speak, where it looks great from 5 feet, and then you know see all the damage to it. But a 5-foot console works more than well enough for me. Like once again, I'm not going for perfection. This thing's gonna live in a fairly dark room anyway, so I'm not one of those people who shines lights on his game consoles and that kind of thing. You know, they live in a cube shelf in my living room right now. So, but this will be the N64 that I use going forward. So I want it to be nice and the best condition that I can reasonably get it to. Is kind of what I'm going for. Clean out this little Nintendo logo. Toothbrush works great for that kind of thing. I really should try to find... My purple will be my metals. I could have done purple as plastic, but like the thing is, you really do not want to use things that you use for metal on plastic. You don't want to cross-contaminate the two, ideally, because materials that you use for metals can interact with plastic and create very undesired effects in the composition of your plasturgy. So I had a package, maybe I put it in one of these drawers. I don't know. Once again, I need to get everything organized down here. There, yeah. Perfect. Alright, blue will be plastic. Blue will be plastic, purple will be metal. There you go. But yeah, once again, we're just going to hit this with some Armor All protectant. And it should put a small protective coat on the plastic as well. Essentially keep it from getting scuffs and scratches in theory. I'm not sure of the efficacy of that. All I know is it's a material that's specifically designed to clean plastics. That's what I typically try to use on plastics, is things that are designed for plastics. So, and really, as long as you're using stuff that's designed for plastics on plastics, you're generally fine. Like for instance, this Meguiar's Plastex. It's specifically designed to polish plastic. That means really it can polish any kind of plastic in theory. So you're gonna hit this little scuff here with some Plastex. Almost got it out. We are so dangerously close to that being gone. Just hardly any. And once again, you could do a full shell with this, and honestly, like, you'll see at the end of the day, like, right here, you can't tell where I hit it with Plastex and where I didn't. So that's kind of the nice thing with Plastex, is it's super non-abrasive, but it's just slightly abrasive. So it'll take the scuffs and scratches right out of your plastic without removing the either the sheen or the texture. So, which is what, you know, a magic eraser or a scouring pad or something along those lines will do. So there you go. All right. So we got this, for the most part, good enough. I've got it to the point where you could do the rest with the console assembled, so that's good enough for me. I really don't like taking things apart and putting them back together again, over and over again, when I can just get it all done first go. So I know this isn't the most entertaining thing to watch, but it is a vital step in the console restoration process, so not much we can do about it, unfortunately. And I'm going to go ahead and hit this gray with the toothbrush too, because I got some liquid in there, so clean that out, and put in our power button. We did get that all cleaned up for the most part. Feels super nice. Expansion pack, make sure that's all cleaned out.
Perfect. Alright. Top of the console goes back on. She looks beautiful. Alright. And then we got our little feet cover things, which I could give a quick clean too. Oh, jeez. That'd be the other difficult thing about a console modding service is how clumsy I am. Just dropping everybody's stuff. Well, what can you do? I'm going to go ahead and screw it in. And I tend not to use the electric part of my electric screwdriver when I screw screws in to retro consoles, because this is very old plastic, so it is very easy to crack a screw well. So I just calmly and firmly twist the screws in. But zipping them out is, like, as long as you break the, I suppose I didn't hear any of the screws break, so this console, I mean, like, if I didn't see that missing screw, I'd be able to tell either way that this console was opened at some point. But, yeah, trying to get this in. There we go. Yeah, breaking the screws, you want to do it by hand, but everything else, you know, unscrewing electric screwdrivers, perfectly fine. I just would never, in this old of plastic, zip screws in with an electric component unless it was like really weak. So, but this electric screwdriver works fantastic. So I use it all the time. I used to use this one for work, and then I sort of retired it to bench use because I got a Dremel one that was a little bit more fit for purpose, like a big 4-volt one. That it's still relatively portable, not nearly as portable as this one, but that one can replace a drill in a lot of situations, and that's kind of nice to have out in the field because, of course, you don't want to be carrying a drill with you all the time, but carrying a little electric screwdriver with you is perfectly serviceable. Alright, now we can go ahead and get this sucker plugged in. I might give a quick once over with Plastex later, but I'd say it looks pretty good. Definitely not brand new, but the kind of patina you expect on a console of this vintage. So we're going to go ahead and plug it in, make sure it still works. And yeah. Yeah, it's just the N64 is stanced weird, so it doesn't quite balance on that. But here, it does pretty fine. You could put new feet on the back, and then some kind of foot that covers the front. But I gotta say, if anything, the nice thing about using Armor All protectant, it makes the plastic feel really nice. Makes it feel like brand new plastic. It really does. Anyway, we got our. You're using the Japanese one. Pop that in there. You can pop the HDMI splitter that is right here over to the video signal. And we can pop this cartridge in. It's in there good and firm. Power on. I didn't put the expansion pack in. That would probably be advisable. There we go. I really could put the jumper pack in, now that I think about it. While I'm down here and I have flathead screwdrivers, that'd probably be a good idea. Yeah, Nintendo offered a tool with their jumper pack, or the expansion pack to do that, essentially. Which I've always found kind of funny because it's easy enough just to do with the screwdriver. But I suppose you do risk marring up the plastic if you're not careful, but this plastic's perfectly fine, so I don't think I damaged anything. We are going to go ahead and give the expansion pack a quick clean. And this is the one I cleaned up, I believe. This is the one I didn't clean up. Dang pack! It is causing me all of my problems today. But we're going to go ahead and just hit this with some contact cleaner and my cartridge cleaner, which I got to replace the felt on. I've got some felt to replace it, but haven't gotten around to it yet. So, oh, this is, oh, that'll work. There we go. Dry it off quick. Should be fine. Good enough for me. And then we'll hit it with a quick hit of Armor All. And then we'll get to the, after we test this and make sure it works, we'll get to the Retron 3. And we'll get that sucker working quick. So, well, working properly. Hopefully. As long as I have everything that's needed. It shouldn't take parts. I'm pretty sure it's just that the solder joint is damaged. But it's possible it lifted a pad too. So we might get to do a pad repair, which could be fun, depending on your definition of fun. But yeah, anyway, we got our official copy of Mario Kart 64. Because if this doesn't work, I want to blame an actual Nintendo cartridge. And we pop her on. There we go. Now, once again, as long as it works 50% of the time, all the time, I'm, for the most part, okay with it. It could be potentially a capacitor issue, too, because I've noticed it'll work, like, consistently after you power it on once or twice, right? So it could be faulty capacitors. So I'm probably going to put in an order to Console 5 for a capacitor kit for this Nintendo 64 and just all of my Nintendo 64s, really. Because when I sell them, I intend to, you know, if they're RGB moddable with simple mod, RGB mod them. I might do a complex RGB mod just to try it out and then sell a complex RGB modded one. But, I mean, generally speaking, I have RGB working on my N64, so that is a success as far as I am concerned. And it looks good. At least it looks good to me on the viewfinder with a inexpensive capture card on a monitor from like 15 years ago. So, between the complex one and the one I just did, well, one of the main differences is price. So, the thing with the complex one, and that one is because you can RGB mod every Nintendo 64 ever made, even the PAL ones, which a lot of people don't know you can RGB mod the PAL ones, but you can RGB mod the PAL ones. The later model Nintendo 64s never came with the encoder chip for RGB. Like, these consoles, like, literally all I did was do the 2 cents of work that it would have taken Nintendo to wire RGB and an RGB amp to the AV port, right? But the thing is, and pretty much all the board that I installed was just a video amplifier chip to basically take the raw RGB out of the chip on this board and put it out the, and some capacitors and resistors to attenuate the video properly, and put it out of the AV cord, right? So all of the hardware is here that is needed is here, other than a couple capacitors and a couple of cable runs and a Texas Instruments video amplifier. But Nintendo never installed that. But the complex RGB mod adds in that essentially that RGB transcoder to make the to take the RGB, I believe, from the CPU is how they do it,
and then just or directly out of whatever outputs the video, and there's essentially another chip in the progression. So that one adds a bit of cost to doing the mod, as well as makes the mod a lot more complicated, because you have to not only do pretty much everything I did here, but you also have to wire stuff to where I wired it here, if that makes any sense. So, and I'm not as familiar with that mod, but that's from my understanding the way that it works. But this one's a super simple one. Do you know how to mod 3DS too? I haven't ever modded a 3DS before. It's definitely something that I have a soft modded new 3DS, but I've never actually fully, you know, like I've never done any particular mods to one. I've replaced power jacks on them before, but in terms of modifications, I haven't done any modifications on them yet. Now that I did find out from a viewer earlier that you can actually buy video capture card kits to install for a 3DS, I will probably end up doing that at some point here, just so I can capture 3DS directly. But yeah, I haven't actually modded them. I've only really just worked on them. And I've soft modded mine, but just so I can primarily not have to worry about irreliable 3DS cartridges, because that tends to be a problem for whatever reason for a lot of titles. The 3DS cartridges just quit after a while. So, unfortunate fact of life, but what can you do? So, we got this N64, I think, all squared away and ready to go. So, that is perfect. And we're going to go ahead and unplug it from the capture card and negotiate the SCART cable and power cable away. And I'm probably going to use the US power cable. Doesn't really matter a ton, because the Japanese power cable is rated for 50 and 60 hertz to 50 and 60 hertz for 100 volts AC, and the US one is rated for 60 hertz, 120 volts. So I don't know why they didn't just make the US ones multi-range in one piece. Maybe it requires more hardware. I don't know, but I suppose the nice thing is for the Japanese ones, well, for one, they work all over Japan because they're 50 and 60 hertz, and if you just had a voltage change, so basically a voltage downstepper, you can just use a Japanese Nintendo 64 in PAL territories with that voltage, with a voltage downstep. Or, you know, you could just use a PAL power supply in a Japanese Nintendo 64 or an American one or whatever. They're really essentially interchangeable aside from the cartridge port. But I'm just going to go ahead and set this on my steps because we're done with it. You need to go upstairs eventually here. And then, what is my Twitch? It is twitch.tv/DustyD0. I guess Restream takes over my description, but it's usually in my YouTube description. But yep, pretty much identical name to my YouTube one. So now we're gonna go ahead and get this hooked up because it'll need to be hooked up for this next thing, because what I'm going to be doing next for my next trick, I guess, is I'm going to be fixing a Retron 3. So, and then this should still be good. This will still be good. So basically, just to showcase what's going on with it, I should have a Genesis power supply somewhere, which these take. I believe in my future project. No, it's not my future projects drawer. This is my future projects drawer. You are not it. It's in one of. I know for a fact it is in one of these drawers. Google, I'm not talking to you. I think Google just tried to communicate with me. I suppose I haven't checked any of my Twitch stuff here, but Not in there. Not in there. It's always in the last drawer you check. Of course. And it's always in the last drawer you can possibly check for me. So, there you go. But we'll go ahead and grab this Genesis power adapter here. Plug her in. I just realized it may be too heavy and pull this straight out of the wall. I just have a cable dangling here, so hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully, hold on, buddy. Okay. But yeah, so there's a good little rattle there. But if I go ahead and plug this in, and I think you are video, yes, okay. So you are video, and you are audio. So I get, when this is plugged in, absolutely nothing here because I'm assuming it's just the cartridge is not seated incorrectly. Or maybe, well, it's, I get a video signal actually there, so that's interesting. What do I get now? I get something. If I wiggle this port, I used to get something. It could just be this cartridge. This thing has the death grip, naturally. As most of these clone consoles do. But not much you can do about that. Are we gonna get something? It's on composite. That should be correct. Am I getting audio? I'm not getting audio either. I might try cleaning the cartridge port. I swear, half this stream has been cleaning cartridge ports. Jeez, that thing just grabs on and does not want to let go. Brief spray here with contact cleaner. Get it with the filaments here. And you are... That's a little safe. There's no residue. And I'm pretty sure this should be not conductive enough to plug this back in and not have anything blow up. Where did that power cable go? There it is. Okay, so we'll plug this guy in. Please work this time. There we go. Okay, so that works. But if I wiggle the video cable, I swear this wasn't working before. Now of course it's working perfectly fine now that I'm, you know, on Twitch, right? Or streaming to Twitch/YouTube. Yeah, that's solid. That's ridiculous. It was going in and out, so basically I'll just go through the process of troubleshooting this because I need to open it anyway because this power button's stuck down. But yeah, that was kind of unexpected because I swear, like, plugged into my TV, this did not work reliably. Like, you'd move the cable and like at the end of the cable and it would not work. So that could be still a sign of a cold solder joint. So we are probably going to go ahead and fix that anyway. But yeah, I guess it's just not as problematic as I thought it was going to be. So there you go. Anyway, I gotta find my... I'll wake my camera back up again. Oh. Yeah, it decides to change automatically sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't, so you never know with it. It always keeps you on your toes. But, yeah, go ahead and take this sucker apart somehow. This is another issue that I didn't realize I was going to encounter, is the fact that the screws are all hidden under the feet. That's fine. Retron doesn't want you getting into this thing. Will you fit? No, you will not. Okay, so we will need to find a screwdriver that fits down there. This one should. This one's fairly skinny. Oh yeah, that one does perfect. Okay, so we got that one. I'm assuming it's just all around the feet. I'm guessing. So we're gonna pull these feet off and then reapply them. It has 3 out of 4 of its feet, so that's not too bad. This is a terrible foot design because it doesn't really have a lot of surface area to stick to. But we'll go ahead and hop in here and get that power button taken care of, as well as, you know, figuring out, just kind of showing how I would troubleshoot faulty video. Because it is a good skill to have if you're going to work on game consoles, for sure. Because a lot of the time, your issues are going to be fairly consistently the same ones. Either a faulty port, a port that isn't soldered in correctly, or a cold solder joint. Some kind of discommunication between the PC sticker. They thought they could put one over on me, huh? Yeah. Well, whoever did QC didn't do that good of a job. The power button's stuck all the way down on my probably billion-year-old console here. Okay, so it looks like there's some kind of... Oh, there's all kinds of things just soldered into place and hot glued. Oh, geez, this thing's a nightmare. Okay, well, I didn't know we were going to have to deal with all this garbage. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Retron, what are you doing to me, Retron? Okay, it looks like we should be able to just undo that board and then flip it over. So yeah, it's attached with the ribbon cable there, and it has all the cables soldered on one side and hot glued on the other. That is, I need a smaller bit for that. Where is my electric screwdriver? There we are. But yeah, everything is soldered in and hot glued. So for at least the one side is hot glued. So, which I'm not a big fan of hot gluing stuff into place. That is something that I am not a proponent of. Your work should hold itself together. You should not have to hot glue it together. Okay, so we should be able to now flip this right over itself. Oh, I forgot. I still have screws down here. Okay, well, that's why they make magnetic screw holders and flashlights. Do we have any more of these down here? Got 1, 2, 3. There should be 6 total. Four, 5. And 1 missing. Yeah, they just have these screwed... Just have these done with machine screws. That's ridiculous. Yeah, so not the kind of build quality I'd, expect from, like, Nintendo, needless to say. Or somebody along those lines, but... I might try to see if I can find a SIM card remover. Oh, well... Helps when you don't unplug the output cable from your capture card. Hopefully the video should be back now. That's bizarre. Plug it back in. There we go. Okay. We're back. SIM card remover.
these suckers out. This is a broken SIM card remover, probably because I use these for things such as poking these suckers out.
That one out, and then this one.
We wouldn't need to do things like this if they used the correct screws for the application that they're using them for, but we can't all do our jobs correctly, so. If we all did our jobs correctly, we'd hardly ever need, like, repairmen and, you know, accountants and all that fun stuff, right? So, yeah, anyway. So, looking here, first things first, the power button that is sticking looks to be a mechanical issue of some kind. Like it wasn't aligned or something along those lines. Because that clearly is working. That's clearly working. It's a strange design for a momentary switch, but okay. We will try lining this back up. We'll just probably nestle that in there for now. And see if nestled in there correctly. That seems to be correct. So sometimes fixing things just involves taking them apart and putting them back together again. Okay, so now this video board looks like it is just held in here with, well, it looks like the voltage regulator is kind of funny. Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, the first thing you notice on this board is you got an ample amount of hot glue. You got hot glue holding that ribbon cable in there, hot glue holding all the ports together, hot glue holding this ribbon cable in, and then hot glue holding in the presumably 7805 voltage regulator, with this for the voltage regulator heatsink. This thing's incredible. This thing is like Night of the Living Bodge. Oh my god, that is hilarious. I'm so glad I took this apart. I need a good laugh sometimes. Hot glued to death, yes. So, I'm sure Retron, since building this abomination, has gotten better at their stuff. Okay? I'm sure they are better at what they do now than they used to be, maybe. I don't know, I haven't had a Retron product before to... really another Retron product compared to this one. I don't even remember how I ended up with this one. It's just something that exists in my life, and I have to live with that. Now, looks like you should just be able to push this out, in theory. I don't know how they're holding this in, other than maybe hot glue. Because it's not screwed into the bottom or anything. Oh, there's a screw right here. And it is naturally just shredded to all... Oh my goodness. I don't know if we're going to be able to get that out without a stripped screw remover. Oh, looks like we can get some purchase on it. Okay, that's good. So that is going to be that screw right there. I'm going to try to keep track more or less. Okay, so if we remove the...
Is there another one somewhere? Oh, and it looks like there's a nice little bit of corrosion right there on that capacitor there. But we will play around with this to see what's going on first. And then we'll act like we got to that point organically. There we go. So it just pops out like that, I guess. Geez, this thing is like held together in such a bizarre way. I kind of find it somewhat entertaining. But they made it almost impossible to get down to the... contacts for the videos, the video inputs or outputs. So yeah, that makes things interesting. How do we want to approach this? Because I think it's probably just held in with those two screws and then these guys. So we can zip those out quick. Should be able to zip those out quick in theory. I'm not keeping track too much of how the screws lay out in this thing.
Because honestly, it's a Retron 3. I plan on having this down here just as kind of a, I need to test a Super Nintendo cartridge or whatever, pop it in there, see if it works or not, that kind of thing. But, yeah, I don't particularly care, like, a ton about it, because, like, the, whatever, like, it's just, it's the, what are you? Are you the antenna for the wireless controller? I swear, every time you look at this board, you find something more hilarious than the last. This is an antenna, guys, I guess, in somebody's world. It's just a shred of wire, but, you know, what can you do? If it works, right? Anyway, so this should hopefully be able to be removed from the,
Unless there's something holding this in. Oh yeah, there is a screw here.
The thing is, the screw placement's just weird on this, too. Like, it's both bodged together and a weird design. So it's like that perfect combination of jank. Okay, now will you lift out? I think we are free of the prison. Okay, so, oh boy.
Look at this mess. Look at, what are you? You're just hot snot, aren't you? Ew. That is horrible. Okay, so... Oh my god. It's like they used the most corrosive flux imaginable, and then they didn't clean it off.
This thing is truly a work of art in its way.
Oh my goodness. It's like, everywhere you look, there's something where it's like, jeez. Anyway,
so we're going through troubleshooting
bits and pieces of equipment here. So, let's just say you want to figure out why my video port's working. Why my video port's not working. So it could be the fact that this is one of the worst looking solder joints I think I've ever seen in my entire life on a commercially released product.
So if we go to my microscope here, and I don't think you're going to see this issue in your Trinitrons because Trinitrons are built decent, but but that being said, cracked solder joints do happen on everything. It's just the nature of it. If you look at this board here, oh my goodness, that's just so you look at the power section, and you can see that for one thing, there's some kind of corrosion and stuff eating into the solder there, and in this one, there's some corrosion on the pad right there. That's probably giving me my intermittent video. So what we're going to do is we're going to first take some alcohol, and we are going to exercise this board of the nastiness, hopefully. Which this is probably either flux residue or something that got in the board, or something from the hot glue or something along those lines. But yeah, it's whatever it is, it's nasty, and we're getting rid of it. So, there we go. So we got that somewhat cleaned up. It's probably not going to clean up perfectly, but just like if you ever need to remove hot glue, by the way, alcohol will eat right through the bond on it. It'll make it kind of gelatinous rather than sticky. So if you ever need to remove hot glue from something, that's how you do it. But if we take this guy right here, we can see that those solder joints look god-awful, right? So, first thing we're going to do is we are going to take, because this thing's at a weird angle, our flux, or paste flux, tacky flux. We're going to find a implement to grab some of it. This will do the trick just fine, I think. Grab a little bit of it. You're gonna just stick some on there. Alright. In theory, if you really cared about this thing, you could
do this to every joint on the board. And if you wanted to troubleshoot the other issue too, that's probably where I would start, is just honestly the poor soldering. But you're going to take some flux, get it introduced. All right. Then you're going to take your iron, you're going to wave it around to wake it up. Okay, you're going to hit the button to wake it up because the waving function doesn't seem to want to work. And then you're going to find these joints here, wait for your iron to get up to temperature, and it is a Kesker T12 iron, so it is up to temperature already. And you are going to melt these suckers and try to get a good clean joint on them. See, isn't that better? Now, I might almost consider because this solder looks kind of nasty, taking my own solder and replacing this solder essentially, which my solder is a high quality solder, so it should naturally want to displace the low quality solder, in theory. But the first issue is I need to find my solder, and it seems to have disappeared. How does my solder disappear? What the heck? Oh, there it is. Right in the most obvious spot imaginable. But I'm just going to take my solder and introduce it on here. Just flood this with good solder, right? And then that should remove some of the nastiness, right? Now, by rights, this should work reliably. I'm going to take a little bit of solder off that too because it looks like it's just balled up now. So we can pull a little solder off of it by just putting our iron on it, cleaning it, putting our iron on it and cleaning it. And as you can see, now we have a nice, good connection there. And we're going to do the same thing with the video circuitry, but that one's already working. So we're just going to hit it quick with the flux. Do the whole thing, right? But yeah, my problem was likely that contact was just terrible between the board and the yeah, those ones still look a little weird because this solder is not high quality at all. Like, it's the opposite of high quality. It's low quality solder. Right, but yeah, like once again, that just looks weird right there. But you can see the ones that I flowed fresh solder on look a lot shinier than those ones, and that one still looks a little like lead-free solder. So yeah, but that should hopefully have the video quality issue fixed. But let's just say we needed to troubleshoot it further. Let's just say that's not my issue, right? So what we can do is we can go ahead and hook this up to video, right? Okay, and we can find the power cable that I was using from that Sega Genesis somewhere. Oh geez, that's Nintendo 64. There we go. It's somehow tangled all the way over there. But we can put power into this board now, right? And then next we're going to want to find a ground. Now, a good ground should be essentially just anywhere you know where a good ground is. And we can find ground too by unplugging this first, right? And then we can take our multimeter, and I'm going to go back to the capture screen here. Take our multimeter, and then we're going to go to continuity, because a board might be, like, sometimes you're going to have an obvious ground on your board, sometimes you're not going to have an obvious ground on your board. So you're going to put your multimeter in continuity, make sure it beeps when you are there, and then I believe the Genesis is center negative. So you should have continuity with your ground on the center pin. So we will pull ground from this right here. So we're going to take a little alligator clip. All right. Easiest way to do it when you're fault finding. Take an alligator clip, hook it right onto there. You could also take a little wire, solder it, and put it in your multimeter, but just do that, right? And then we will take the other end of this, and then this would probably also be an easy to find ground plane there too. I'm guessing that these will have continuity with each other. Yes. So find a good ground, and then you're going to plug that in your multimeter there. Replace your what is called your common cable, or your black cable. Okay. Then you can go ahead and plug in. You can set to volts DC. All right, and then you can find your barrel plug that you lost. Plug this sucker in. All right, and now, if you are on volts DC and you take the positive, you'll see that I get 13.98 nominal volts, right? Because this is a Genesis power adapter, so it has a ton of sag. I bet when I turn this sucker on, that you're gonna end up having like a lot less than that. We're gonna go ahead and power it on. I think that's the power on switch, maybe. I don't know. I lost the power board. We'll find out if the voltage sagged. Might have a little. That felt like a 13.25 versus 14 volts. Yeah, so definitely sagged a little bit. So now we have power running into this board. See, my NVV, I have no idea what you're doing, but it's entertaining. Thank you. I mean, I try to be at least a little entertaining and a little educational when I'm doing these kinds of things. I'm just kind of showing Sim some means of fault finding for if you're not getting a video signal on something. Or if you're, you know, if essentially you plug video in and you're not getting any, or you aren't plugging video in and you are getting... Well, no, that's all right. I'm basically doing some basic fault finding. So, as you can see on my multimeter here, and I will turn the light on and maybe make it a little easier to see, we are now getting voltage into the board, and it is now on because it's sagging a little bit. So, so there should be a positive voltage reading from one of these guys, for an example, if we are getting some power to it. Right, so for example, we are getting almost zero power to our volume here, but if we go to the video one, we should be getting a little something from our video, right? In a perfect world. I think not much, but it's trying to find something. Like, that's the thing, we're not running a cartridge right now. If you're fault finding a TV, you get more video signal from it. But what I might go ahead and do is unplug this quick, because we're going to be moving it around. And we'll plug a cartridge in there. And then we should get a clear video signal. So we're on Genesis right now. Plug this sucker in. Of course, barrel these. I think that's in there. I don't know. We can find out. Plug the. Well, we don't want to plug it into the volume thing. That will probably destroy it somehow. But if we do that, then we aren't getting anything there. That's the reset. So we're going to hit power for a moment. Try to move that around, see if it makes better contact. It isn't getting actual video signal. So we're going to go ahead and unplug this. Once again, this thing has the death grip, so try to plug it back in again. the way that everything contacts. Plug that in. And we do have video. Okay, so now we're going to, we have video going on the screen, so it's getting some kind of voltage to the video jack. And they're going to have a common ground. Now, I need to find my HDMI port here. Get back to the camera input. So if you flip this guy over, very carefully because it is powered on, and though 13 volts is not going to hurt you that bad, you prefer not to touch it. Yeah, we're just going to get a good connection on this ground right here, and we're just going to check that connection against this guy right here to make sure we get our 14 volts coming in, and we're not. So that means we don't have a good connection there because I know that's ground. We don't want to cross these over. Okay, now we got voltage, and it is, well, that's not what we want to see. I thought those were both grounds. Let me double check this here for a moment. I wonder if we still have content playing. I don't think we do. So yeah, that's not what you want to do. Let's try this again. There we go. Okay, so yeah. A little bit of a tip, don't try to cross over the... So what we can do is we can get our voltage here. Try not to cross these over once again. So this is ground right here. And half the battle is trying to clip onto a ground on a board like this. Like having a good ground plane would be super helpful. Somehow I'm just getting stuck on the Sega logo now there. Is it actually gonna... I mean, not that it really matters what it's displaying, as long as it's displaying something. Let me go back here. At least for the purposes of this demonstration, at the very least. So you need to find... Well, you'll be a ground, won't you? That'll be a ground. So if we go here with our multimeter, right, we'll get... Oh, yeah. We get 13 volts, right? So our common, essentially, or our ground, is going to be the reference for us to calculate our voltage. So that's why you need to find a good ground. Okay? And then this ground, which is actually also the heat sink on this assumedly 7805 voltage regulator, that's going to be how we get that ground. So, as you can see, if we tap onto a pin here on the multimeter, we're getting a little bit of voltage, right? Not a ton, but a little bit of voltage. And that's going to be our video signal. That's what we're going to be trying to find. Now, if we tap on here, this is going to be our ground, so we get 0 voltage. But if I crossed over into continuity, we'd have continuity with that, right? So, we've got voltage coming in here. And once again, it's going to be very nominal because... but basically, essentially... It's going to be nominal because the voltage signal is going to vary, of course, because it's not going to be displaying something perfectly static all the time. But then from here, you're just going to kind of go through and try to find where these traces go. And on this board, they made it somewhat difficult. You can see that this one goes, it looks like they're under this gluey mess. And yeah, they didn't make this one easy, but what we can do then is we can unplug this, pop back into continuity, and we can figure out our path to determine exactly where this guy is supposed to go, right? So essentially, if we find this guy right here, where are you supposed to go? Because I Like, it's not going to go into the cartridge port, obviously. It's probably, if I had to guess, going to be going somewhere into this ribbon cable directly, right? Because we don't have a via coming up here from this, from your power there. And then you'd also want to verify that this is a good ground. So the ground is going to be on the jacket side usually of a composite cable. You're just going to want to make sure you have continuity between your ground, because if you don't have a good ground, then you're not going to get a sensible video signal. But yeah, you're just going to go from the positive on here. We're going to find where it goes. It's obviously not going to go on the voltage regulator, and it's not going to go on that cartridge port. But you are going to have some kind of connection between this and your positive, right? It's not going to be an open load in theory, right? Oh yeah, it's a ring positive. So to try to get to the ring here. Oh, you can do it outside of the port. Should have some kind of connection there. Maybe it's so distant, I think. Or it's just separated by the voltage regulator, so you'd have some kind of connection between the output of the voltage regulator down here, I believe. Well, it's probably on a separated circuit, I guess. But, so that would be a more simple bit of electronics. But I guess this one's a little bit more complex. So we're going to try to find somewhere else that this goes so we can troubleshoot essentially the path. Yeah, exactly. It's janky hardware. This is not a good example to teach like sensible troubleshooting on, because there's not a really good way of sensibly troubleshooting this. I was using the voltage regulator as the ground. We can find something to hopefully latch on here as our positive on our video signal. Well, that wasn't our video signal. This one's our video signal. Yeah, just in the way this is designed makes it difficult. What I'm probably going to go ahead and do here is just find some wire, just for the sake of demonstration, and show you a little tip on how I would go about doing this when you can't find a good point to bodge to, or not bodge to, and that would essentially be to bodge to it with some wire. So you're just going to take a wire, take your soldering iron that just fell asleep, wake up, okay, and you're just going to, so you're our video, and you're the positive on our video. We're just going to go ahead and solder a little wire onto there. Come on. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just needs to be on there, more or less. Of course, since I'm doing a demonstration, this is not working out at all whatsoever. But okay, so now we should have one of these ends in here. This should eventually end. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take our snaps, and we are going to end it. Alright, and we're going to take it off the jacket of it. Ugh. Jeez. Good old cheap speaker wire. Okay. Come on.
Oh, we're almost there. Oh. Come on. There we go. We got there in the end. Alright, and then you can just stick this guy right in your COM port. Alright. And you should have continuity. Just like that. So that can help when you don't have a really good point to stick onto. You can just essentially make your own. Alright, so and as you'll see, that was the video output. So we should be able to stick this in here and have continuity. We should be able to stick this in here and have continuity. It fell off. Okay. So the next approach is to actually get some good clean wire here. Go. And then we're going to tin this because this is going to stick on, darn it. In it. I'm going to take this. And it is going to go on there, dang it. Not pretty, but that should be on now. Yeah, okay. So, let's try this again. So if you go in here with your positive, you should have continuity there, and you shouldn't have continuity. Well, I guess you have some continuity with ground, I guess, there because it's a signal, but you should have continuity on the internal, and it should be very little resistance. Could mean this port's faulty too, because I'm not getting something consistent there, but basically what you would do is you try to figure out exactly where this video signal is going. So in that case, it's probably going around these capacitors here, in and out of them, or these resistors, excuse me. Right, and this one looks like it's for the video circuitry for the most part. And you It is very difficult to get contact on these. But you'd see that it's going through all these resistors. So you just pretty much follow the traces back. And that's a good way of troubleshooting simple boards. This board is a modern design of board, but if I don't really have... I would wish that Nintendo 64 was still open, because you could troubleshoot a Nintendo 64 a lot easier like this. But with one of these boards, it's very difficult because, as you can see, everything is very, very tiny. So trying to follow your traces are also very tiny. But it looks like it's coming from here, and it is not going to that capacitor, but it's probably going through the board into this via, maybe. This via. This via. We have you in any vias. Is my probe sharp enough to get into one of the vias? It's grounding out. Very inconsistently. That's kind of weird circuitry, but okay. It's very inconsistent. Bizarre. So I was just getting
signal off of those. No, I'm not. This is not shaping up to be a good example, but usually you would just pretty much follow the traces from the video, and essentially where you should have continuity, you should have continuity. Now, another thing to check is if you have capacitors in the signal, it's good to check to make sure they're not shorted, right? So if you have capacitor, like here for an example, this is a capacitor, you would take your other probe, pop her in there, and then just go down that line again, because capacitors should not be shorted together, and make sure that they're not shorted. So for an example, this guy is not shorted. But yeah, you pretty much just kind of follow the trail, essentially, to find exactly what you're looking for, which would be something that doesn't make sense, you know, like essentially a resistor that is resisting too much, or a capacitor, and usually in a situation of aging hardware, something that worked and then it doesn't, it's a lot of the times going to be a faulty capacitor. So you check the capacitance in it, and you also check the ESR in it, and you make sure that that capacitor is reading the spec. So that would be, once again, the gist of it. This board is kind of terrible for, you know, showing an example, because everything is, like, you cannot find traces off of this thing. Like, I am trying to look for where these traces go, and it goes, like, under the bottom of the port, right? So this would be your video positive signal, right? And it goes somewhere around this board, under here, under the ribbon cable, and then it's going to come out, assumedly, somewhere around the other side, right? Maybe into one of these capacitors. But the capacitors, like, they have the... That's the other crazy thing about this board. They have the voltage regulator and the capacitors that smooth out the voltage right next to the video circuitry. So you have your most volatile electrical signals next to the ones that need to be the most precise. Who does that?